We should be probably live about now. So, welcome everyone who is watching. This is Andres Restart, and the other guy is Brandon from WhataboutNintendo. How has you been, friend? Because that's normal English.
It feels like, even though we only took 1 week off, it feels like it's been forever. It feels like it's been a long time. Like I halfway through the week, I was like, man, I haven't talked to Andres in ages. It wasn't true. It wasn't true. It was like a week.
The whole
and actually, I think it was like 3 days because I think we had talked about something else. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was a calamity.
But, yeah, I was like, man, it feels like it's been forever. So I'm just like, yo, wow, we're actually back. This is strange.
We are back, and this is the beginning. Like, so I feel like, in terms of like Nintendo news and things to like discuss, there was kind of like we were sort of riding like a high, like because there's that anticipation of a whole bunch of Nintendo announcements, and then it happened over like a 2-month window, kinda. And now we're in that period where, because there isn't like any imminent crazy Nintendo announcements, now we're just playing the games they have to offer for the year. That like news cycle sort of like, you know, it dips. That's just kind of like a natural flow of like when talking about news, that there's highs and lows. So right now we're like in that, I would say like beginning stages for what's to come. Like obviously as the weeks go on, we're getting a little bit more news about Age of Calamity. Crown Tundra's come out. We're gonna be talking about those things this tonight. We're also gonna be talking about Michael Pachter's. Oh man, we're gonna talk about Michael Pachter and everything he had to say about Nintendo last week because I'm triggered slightly, just slightly. We're gonna talk about that. I put a video about it when I got back.
Yeah,
the morning before, afterwards. But yeah, I was on vacation. I had a good time. I was in Arizona. Went to the Grand Canyon. Like. It was interesting to me because looking at all the maybe I'll post some pictures later, but it just looked like Breath of the Wild. Like there was a place that was like straight up Pinnacle Rock, and I wanted a paraglider and I wanted to like fly through this entire huge valley that goes miles and miles deep. Like there is a part that I looked straight up like the valley where the ancient temple is. Like it was just fascinating to see, and there's a lot of really cool animals I got really close up to, like large rams and stuff. So I had a beautiful time, just kind of like being a little separated from the internet. I got a notification that I only had 39 minutes of screen time on my phone last week, which is astronomically low. Like it's the opposite end of huge. I was just, yeah. So I was fairly detached. I still, paid attention a little bit because
that's
it's
how
me,
I was when I went. Well, when I go, I've been so many times to North Carolina, to the Blue Ridge Mountains. The place is absolutely stunning. Like it's gorgeous, and I've taken some like really, really, really good pictures there. That I'm actually like, I'm proud of this picture because it looks really good. And the cameras I was using were like pretty old at the time. I think one of them was like the iPhone 5. So those are not like great cameras. It was like okay cameras, but they look really good. So I've been places like that where it's just like it was around. I've been there around the time where I was like waiting for Breath of the Wild to come out, and it was like everything there reminded me of that game because that was like the most hype thing I've ever I've never been more hyped for a game than I was for Breath of the Wild. So I understand that kind of like
isn't it interesting? Like as we explore more of the world, we're like reminded of Breath of the Wild, and like, you know what? Maybe that was the best game ever. Like it's just what they did in that game, that sense of exploration that you get in Breath of the Wild. It's on another level. Like there's nothing that comes close, really. Nothing. I'm not exaggerating. If you've played Breath of the Wild, there's nothing that really comes close to it, because when you actually go out in nature, that's the thing that comes close to actual real nature. When you go out to these crazy places and you see, you're like, this is amazing. This reminds me of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, the thing I realized about Breath of the Wild that it has that is just very distinct to that game, and when I play games like Genshin Impact, like it doesn't have the same feel. Everything in the game feels natural. Like every single part of the world was supposed to be there. Like the world and the way it's crafted, the way you do things, just feels more real because it's a lot less. I think it's because the game relies a lot less on menus. Like a lot of what you do is very much like in the world itself. Like there's a lot less, and the physics system makes things feel so much more integrated into the world because you're not just doing something that's binary. You're doing something that's, I guess, a unique action every single time because it's all physics based. So it feels a lot more natural.
There's a high level of interaction that is sort of it is unprecedented. I mean, we're still talking about it now, 3 years later. Yeah, there's just something special about it's not just something. It's a number of things that come together that create this immersive experience. And yeah, I mean, we're just straight up nerding out about Breath of the Wild right now. So welcome to the podcast. But let me just kind of be more clear about the agenda for the podcast. I sort of went over it, but I kind of didn't. So we're gonna be talking about a number of things in no particular order. We're gonna touch on the Fire Emblem 30th anniversary situation. We got an announcement last week. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of screenshots from Age of Calamity, and that will probably also tie into some Game Awards speculation that may be a big part of this discussion, Age of Calamity and Game Awards and what may or may not happen then. So when I was sort of talking about how we had a high in terms of the news cycle going into the end of the year, we're going to start looking towards the Game Awards for the next big new Nintendo announcement, right? Or maybe a couple. So we're going to be talking about that, and obviously, well, maybe not obvious, so I'll make it obvious now. This is not the first time we're going to be talking about the Game Awards a lot in the podcast. This is going to be the thing that we look to for the next set of big Nintendo announcements, and then that will sort of lead us into 2021 and whenever that comes up with a direct and such. So that's what I mean by in terms of the highs and lows. So right now we're in the low part, sort of building up again for the next deluge of information from Nintendo. So we're talking about the Game Awards, Age of Calamity. We're gonna be talking a little bit about Crown Tundra. Now, Brandon, I know you're not a big Pokemon fan, so I'm assuming you don't have that much information to give us on that. And I do not. But so the slightly unfortunate thing here, and I may have to talk more about Crown Tundra next week, is because I also didn't get that much time to play with it. I have played it. I got to play it yesterday, but I'm not very far. I haven't completed the DLC. I just got to Freezington, so I don't even know how you can explore that town quite yet. So I've done not that much, but I have done a series of legendary battles through the max raid cave, where you can just do a whole bunch of little raids with teams. I did a lot of that. So we'll be talking about that, touching on that for a little bit. And we're also going to be going over Michael Pachter's comments regarding Nintendo. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Age of Calamity, Game Awards, Fire Emblem 35th Anniversary, Crown Tundra, and Michael Pachter's heinous words he had on Nintendo. That's pretty much the agenda for tonight. But before we jump into those topics, I want to check in with the chat real quick. So say hello to everyone. Thank you guys for coming by. Let's see who's in the chat. D.E. Fox, hello there. Vooper, hello. Dacian Felice. This is my first time catching one of these live, but I have been watching for a while. Excited to be here. I am excited that you are here. Thank you for watching. D.E. Fox, I'm going to be without a Switch for a while because I have to send mine to Nintendo for repair or replacement. Oh, no. It kind of reminds me of when I first got my Switch, the dock wasn't working. Fortunately, my brother had gotten a Switch at the same time.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he let me borrow his Switch, but I had to send my Switch's dock in for repair. And I had to sort of argue a little bit with the repair people in Nintendo because they were just telling me to send the whole thing. I was like, no, the dock is what's broken.
Right.
Send me the dock.
I can still play in handheld mode. What the heck? I don't want to send the unit back. It's not broken. Yeah. So, I feel your pain there, D.E. Fox, but I'm sure Nintendo will be relatively timely about the repair. I had the Wii U. I should have sent the gamepad in for repair, because, I changed the battery, but it still didn't charge. It just didn't work. But I was gonna send it in, but then I was like, well, the Switch is coming out, and then I traded in, and I got like a bunch of money, like way more money than the Wii U should. Like I should have ever gone for that system. I think overall I got like $400 something from it for the system and the games. Towards this, I was like, what the heck? So it literally paid for like the whole system and Breath of the Wild. But I ended up buying 2 Switches. So I bought one for me and one for my friend. And I'm so glad that neither of them were broken. Like when your dock didn't work, like that would have sucked.
Yeah, it's kind of the fear of being an early adopter. There are gonna be issues. I'll even say that my Pro Controller is not perfect. The D-pad is a little wonky.
Mine's great though.
Not perfect.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's been fine. It's just if I play Tetris 99, there are gonna be errors. That I actually prefer to play with my Joy-Cons because those buttons are very clear. You press up, it is up.
Very broken.
Yeah. D. Fox, Andres' podcasts are always fun. Thank you. I'm glad you think so. Discount link. I'm also without my Switch because I left it in my brother's car and he's in college. He's coming home Wednesday though. Wednesday, it's a little bit of a wait, but soon. Ronnie Fazio, hello there. Birdman, yo, what's up? Birdman's saying this week Nintendo's been teasing us a lot. There are a number of the pictures from Age of Calamity, if that's what you're referring to. That could be suggesting some things. We're gonna be talking about that promptly, actually. Benjamin Johnson, how much do used Switches cost? If they're refurbished, you might save like $20, 20, yeah, $30. You're not gonna save that much, actually. If they're like more than, I mean, you might be able to get one for like $250 potentially if it's more than, if it's like less than.
If you look at like a
like
local place, you might be able to get something cheaper. I guess in like local shops around me have deals for like $250. But I can't guarantee that you'll be able to get that price in your area.
Yeah. The armchair analysis. I predict the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer at the Game Awards will be similar to Luigi's Mansion 3 revealed in 2018 September Direct teaser with a little bit of gameplay with a holiday 2021 release window. I think that's pretty feasible, actually. And we'll be talking about that in a little bit. Hayes, what do you think is going on with the Gold in the Sun renewal? I'm gonna say probably nothing. I want there to be Golden Sun something. I feel like eventually there will be. It's really just a question. The question is when, right? But it's the same for Kid Icarus. It's the same for F-Zero. I don't think these franchises are 100% dead and never coming back, but they're kind of few and far between. So we kind of have to be patient about that. But, you know, Nintendo still has the rights to Golden Sun that they could still make a game. I believe Camelot's a developer for that, right? So just keep waiting. Someday we will see another Golden Sun. But let's start to dive into the discussion here. I said we would talk about the Age of Calamity picture, so let's open things up with that. Then we'll touch on the Fire Emblem Anniversary and the Crown Tundra, and then we'll get into our Game Awards speculation and then Michael Pachter's nonsense. So I want to actually just straight up just show you images, and then you guys can kind of see what I'm looking at here.
I'm also gonna be looking because I actually don't know what you're about to show.
I don't know. I have no idea.
To be honest.
Well, I know. You don't.
You know. I
hope I
haven't seen it.
I hope I changed the latency.
Right. I might have seen it. Just forgot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one. The first one.
Can you guys see what I'm looking at? Yeah, you guys can see it. Cool. So, you know, you have pictures like this. Now, not all of them are. Is it just gonna straight up? There we go. So, we got a number of pictures or shots, and they look great. None of them are like groundbreaking necessarily, but a couple of them I do think sort of strongly suggest some things. Like here, we clearly have a cutscene with King Rome, but let me just sort of continue on here. We've actually seen that before in the trailer. One thing that I guess that's worth pointing out is that Purah and Impa are all over the place. We see them in all sorts of cutscenes. It seems like they're going to be heavily involved with the story throughout, which is intriguing to me. I don't know if that means they're going to be... Well, Impa is playable, but I don't know if that means that Purah will be playable, but she's definitely a big part of the story because we've seen her in different shots in different locations. So we're gonna be getting several cutscenes with her in different parts of the world. So that's something that's kind of exciting.
Story advancement in Breath of the Wild also hinged on Impa and Purah a lot, so it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, here's one of that new Yiga warrior that seems to be kind of like
he looks cool.
Leader's not leader, because you have Master Koga, who's the real leader.
He's the muscles. Koga's the brains.
Soul, personality.
Yeah, the soul. There you go.
Yeah,
he's the soul.
Figurehead with no brains, maybe. So here's a shot that is actually, I think, indicative of something. That's King Rome with a big sword.
Yeah,
I really feel like this is something that's like, hey,
there's no way he's not playable.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way he's not playable.
I think this is the closest we've gotten to seeing him playable. The fact that he's holding a giant weapon like that, to me, that is strongly suggestive that he is playable. I think this is definitely a strong hint towards that. I mean, if you guys saw my video where I sort of predicted what characters we could maybe see playable in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, King Rome was one of the ones that I was really, really confident about. And with a shot like this, now that confidence level is like just under 100%, like 98, 99. Like I think this one's really, really likely. Purah and Rob, maybe not, but this guy for sure. There's a sword. He's killing things. He's got to be playable.
All playable. Purah, Rob, Rome, all playable.
Given that they're so heavily involved with the cutscenes, I feel like they should be, but because they're like dorks, I'm not certain.
If Hyrule Warriors is anything to go off of, everybody who's important will be playable.
There's just some other really nice shots.
Hyrule Warriors had so many different characters. So many.
Look at this. There's
a lot of them
different kinds of
were not even close to fighters.
And Link has all sorts of weapons from
I
Breath of the Wild.
love how the Guardians glow now. Like there's
something
before,
about
but
this
the,
that looks
the
a little...
glow is so much like stronger. It's such it almost looks like not LEDs, but like fluorescent. It's almost fluorescent like.
Yeah.
Like that, like really, really bright fluorescent look. It's great. I love it. The contrast is really good, and I love. They had it in Breath of the Wild, but I love the depth of field that they use in the cutscenes a lot. When you target enemies, it looks so good.
Yeah. Here it looks like Master Koga's definitely gonna have some more cutscenes where he's gonna make a fool of himself, given that he has a spotlight.
Something else I've noticed, not just from these screenshots, but just in general, is the NPCs in this game look way more detailed than they did in like Hyrule Warriors, where they looked a lot like lower quality. Like they look like they did in Breath of the Wild. Like they don't look lower quality. They don't look like maybe a little bit in like subtle ways, I'm sure, because there's just so many of them that they have to have done something. But they just hold up really well. They look just like they did at glance, like in Breath of the Wild.
They do hold up pretty well. I'm curious what you think about the ominous figure. We have another shot of this character here sort of approaching them.
Oh, I see.
The character doesn't seem that tall in this shot. I mean, there's perspective taken into consideration here, but given that it's close to the camera,
the shots you've seen make them look that tall.
Yeah.
Maybe like.
But the thing is that it has the Gerudo garb, so it makes you question: is this a Gerudo? And if it's a Gerudo, you would think the Gerudo would be taller than normal because Gerudos are bigger than normal people.
They're pretty tall.
than the Hylians. I mean, like, do you think this is a dude, or do you think this is like an actual Gerudo woman, like a Gerudo witch maybe?
It doesn't look like a Gerudo woman, to be honest. Like Gerudo women have much like
they could
more defined facial features.
Yeah,
they're really, everything about them is really, really defined.
Yeah, my thought is that this character definitely has like evil witchcraft powers. Like this, it's some sort of mage. It could be like
they had that like floating
witch,
ball thing.
Yeah, actually, at first I thought it was like a staff, but it's actually like
staff. You said in the video, and I was like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's no.
Yeah,
handle.
It's actually
it's a floating.
It's almost like a corrupted
ball.
ancient core, right?
Yeah.
But I want to show one more shot here. There is some photos actually. I'm
so curious as to they are.
Good. But we also saw some photos of Hetsu. It's not on this article here, but
Hetsu's.
Hetsu is character. In Age of Calamity, so that's another one of the characters I thought can maybe be playable. And while we don't see him fighting necessarily, there does seem to be an emphasis with those maracas.
Yeah, I think they are.
I think he is. I think the opportunity to bash things around with those maracas is too great and hilarious.
And he has a voice now. He didn't have a voice in Breath of the Wild. He wasn't voice actor. There's no way that he's then like not playable, bro. They even gave him a new voice actor and everything.
Yeah,
he's got to be playable, right?
Yeah, I'm starting to think that he is.
I love
playable.
That this game is even more like cinematic than Breath of the Wild. Like,
we keep seeing
they stepped it up.
It's like there's a lot of I don't know if they're like showing us everything, and when we get there we're like, oh, we saw pieces of all of this already. I want to
like
say
the original,
no.
Like when Breath of the Wild happened, it felt like that. It was like
they did a great job making
showed
things
everything.
Huge. But the difference is that was just one trailer. We're getting a whole bunch of stuff every week, and just more and more here. And I think the big...
And they're not showing everything. There's still a lot we don't know.
Right, and that's true. I mean, it's pretty clear that the big draw for Age of Calamity is a story. So I'm hoping that they really double down on the story, and there's a lot there. There's a lot of cutscenes. From the footage we have seen, though, it does look like the gameplay sort of like it cuts, dynamically throughout your adventure. Like you're doing something, all of a sudden input sort of runs up, and then now she's in the fight with you. So I could sort of see that be a big part of the gameplay, where you see a lot of cutscenes intertwined with it. Yeah.
I think the gameplay experience will be part of the story, because you're running through Hyrule, 100 years ago, and it was not, as desolate. So just seeing Hyrule 100 years ago is like part of the story, and like seeing the battles unfold, because it's not just the cutscenes, it's not just like plot points, like the whole everything in between is also like really important lore and stuff that we are curious about. So it's, even if they do give us like a lot of the big plot point or cutscenes, which I don't think they're doing. I think there's still a ton that we haven't seen, especially since I'm pretty sure they're only showing like the very beginning of the game. It feels like they keep showing like the same areas and the same, like they're showing like the beginning of the game, it feels like. So
yeah,
I think there's still a ton more that we haven't shown. But even if that's not true, and we see most of like the big plot points, or we do end up seeing most of the big plot points, there's still like all that in between stuff that makes that worth it on the story and lore level. So
yeah, I think there's a lot there. There's like, I have a few questions here that seem at least a little bit related. Taker610 provided a super chat. Thank you very much. I watched your Breath of the Wild 2 trailer reaction, best on YouTube. Thank you. That's the one where Brandon and I were both watching it, and he's just dropping F-bombs like, oh my, beep, beep,
dude.
beep. And it's just
I was so excited.
Like,
I was
so
it was so out of nowhere.
We didn't really believe it would be there. I remember we talked about it, like I told you, and I had said on the podcast before that E3. This is like a few weeks before, that someone had told me something would be there, but I didn't believe it either.
Yeah, I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
So it was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, you might as well have told me Mother 3 was gonna be there. Like, I didn't care.
Right.
I was like, whatever, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. It was crazy. I'll say that I kind of embarrassed of that reaction a little bit, because whenever the conversation comes up with people who don't necessarily like watch like reactions, like people who aren't used to reaction culture, if someone asks about my channel and they search Andres Restart, that's gonna be one of the top things that'll pop up in the search, and then that's the first thing they'll click, and I'll be there and be like, I'll just be like waiting for my screams, and I'll try to explain, look, that's not how most of my videos are. It's just a thing that I'm not crazy. It's just a cool thing that it was special. It was a special moment.
It's very, very special.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hype and build up to that moment you didn't see if you just watched the one clip.
Yeah, but when we saw that trailer, it was a great time.
It was so good.
Birdman added me. The character that I want to see in Age of Calamity is Cass's teacher. That may be in the cards. That makes sense. I don't remember all the details about it, but I do remember Cass talking about how there was a teacher of his in the past. So,
okay.
So
Cass,
I could maybe see that happening. What if we get to see Cass as like a little baby bird? That'll be adorable. Yeah, yeah, I would love to see that.
He's one of my favorite characters in the game, to be honest. He's not even like a super major character, but he's just awesome.
Well, whenever you see him, he's playing the music. Oh,
his
there's
design
a secret shrine
is
nearby.
so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's why I like him so much, is because his design stands out so much. He's so cool.
Birdman. In the Japanese translation of the mystery person's picture, it says that person is a male. Okay. My first instinct with that ominous figure is that it's something like I don't want to say a Kagurahim, but more like a Zant, someone who worships Ganon or Ganondorf as a god. We've seen this kind of
very well.
Say it again.
I think Girahim kind of fits that.
A little bit, yeah. Girahim does fit it. It's the problem is that Girahim becomes like a sword. Yeah, but basically that secondary villain.
But like Girahim before the twist.
Before the twist, right?
Or you don't know. Maybe they'll be the same twist. You have no clue.
You're right. Maybe. You know,
could be a similar twist here. You don't know.
It could be the Breath of the Wild 2 tie-in. This character could somehow be related to the resurrection of Ganondorf. You know?
Oh, damn, dude, that'd be epic.
Right.
If we saw some like kind of like secret cutscene that nobody else, like something that he did when nobody else was looking, and we get privy to that information that nobody else has in Breath of the Wild.
I just think from a marketing perspective, I feel like it makes a lot of sense to somehow use Age of Calamity to tie into Breath of the Wild too. And when we get into the Game Awards part of this discussion, we'll touch more on that. But I'm gonna sort of continue through the chat here. Benjamin W. I am sticking with the fact that I think the hooded person is Girahim. Girahim himself. That would be.
I don't know how that would work.
It would mean that like he.
I don't think he survived.
Okay, so firstly, if Girahim is somehow alive in a humanoid form, then that also means that Fi could be alive in humanoid form, I think, because they're kind of like the yin and yang. So Girahim becomes a sword, Fi becomes a sword.
There are references to Fi in Breath of the Wild. Yeah,
I mean it's the Master Sword. It has like that. It speaks to Zelda when Link falls. So maybe, which actually is interesting because I'll give you that there are some rumors, there are speculations that Skyward Sword HD could be a part of a 35th Zelda anniversary celebration. Let's say we do get that this February or March, and Breath of the Wild 2 is like a second half of 2021 release. That could help to lead us into Breath of the Wild 2. If you take a look at the HD remakes, there's something about them that sort of like it sort of suggests something about the next Zelda game to an extent. So there may be something to that potentially. Like allowing us to see Skyward Sword again. Maybe there'll be some elements that will be more focused on in Breath of the Wild that will be like, oh, we saw that in Skyward Sword. Like, for example, the Sky Town, a part of it, I don't want to say specifics, but a part of it comes down to the ground, and it eventually sort of becomes like the beginnings of Hyrule. Maybe we see something there. Maybe the Great Plateau is related to that. Maybe it rises from the ground. We see the Hyrule Castle rise from the ground. So it's that whole skyward thing that could potentially be an element.
Right.
And like you said, Brandon, there is the Master Sword that has... It's Fi speaking to Zelda. Like, they could maybe expand upon that. And if this character is Girahim, which, just for the record, I don't think it is, but if it is, then they could build on that. Or maybe this is a character that's like Girahim, that has maybe a successor to Girahim, or like something along those lines. I don't think it's crazy. Like, this character is at least Girahim-like. I think that much we can agree upon. But there's other Girahim-like characters, like Zant, or the different... the names are slipping my mind, like the... there's a whole bunch.
Starts with an A. I know it starts with an A.
I don't... It's...
I can never remember names, bro.
I don't know. I made a video talking about this, and I forgot all their...
Yeah, I saw it.
I forgot their names.
Yeah. I thought it was a good video, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that.
There's Vati.
Vati. There's... Dude, I know it starts with an A, bro. If it doesn't start with an A, I'm gonna like be upset.
There's also Yuga.
Yeah, Yuga. Dude, I love Lucha Worlds.
Are you sure it starts with A? How
Pretty
convinced
sure,
are you?
99. If it doesn't start with an A, it's gonna shatter my world.
The guy in the red, the guy in the red robes is the one I have in my mind, right? Aghanim.
Yes. See, it
There you go.
starts
Yeah.
with an A.
I didn't see it
Told
on
you.
the page I'm looking at. It's not here, right? But
I was like, bro,
Yeah.
I know it starts with an A.
yeah,
If it didn't start with an A, I was gonna be upset.
yeah. But that's the kind of character that I sort of get the vibes that this
Yeah.
figure is. But we shall see. Arbitrary analysis. Sadly, we may not get a playable version of Ganon or Ganondorf in Age of Calamity. So, I'll say this: the Zelda does something against Ganondorf at the end, and we even see it in the first trailer. At the end of Breath of the Wild, we see, not the end of Breath. Yeah, well, there is something you fight at the end of Breath of the Wild, but in Breath of the Wild, there was something going on between Zelda and Calamity Ganon. There was a fight going on for 100 years where Zelda was sort of sealing him in. And at the end of the Age of Calamity trailer, we see the beginnings of that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the final fights, and it's Zelda that you use to fight the sort of Calamity Ganon to some extent. And he may take on a somewhat different form, maybe a form that is reminiscent of Ganondorf, potentially. Or they don't even have to do that. They could just do the boss fight. Like that, use that creature. That creature's a monster. Or it could be even one of the Scourges. Like, those are closer to a humanoid form. Maybe those could be playable. We're definitely going to fight them. So, we've seen villains be playable in Hyrule Warriors. Like, why not flip that? Like, we may see Master Koga be playable. We may see this ominous figure be playable. That bulkier new leader for the Yigo. Not leader, but like sub-captain.
And they let us play as the Scourges as they kill each of the champions.
Oh, perspective.
Just let us just wreck them.
Yeah.
Like, no, we are the monsters that...
But in terms of, like, the specific Ganondorf that is the mummified one in Breath of the Wild 2, given that it's Breath of the Wild 2, probably not unless they do some sort of, like, thing that goes beyond the scope of what happens in that time period.
I think there's still a lot to him that we haven't seen that, like... I feel like that mummified version of him might change, or like pretty quickly.
He's getting hydrated. I'm
maybe
telling you,
even
man.
just over the course
Breath of the Wild 2
stuff.
story is basically just being Return of the Mummy.
Yeah, I don't think they want to spoil anything or misrepresent what, because I think if they just did as like that mummy form, I think it would kind of misrepresent or not fully represent what he does in the full game. But that's just guessing because we have no idea.
there has always been a theme of, not always, but most Zelda games has some sort of theme of resurrection and revival of the Demon King. In Breath of the Wild 2, Ganondorf is coming back to life. There will be some sort of resurrection. He may not walk around as a giant mummy thing, but he basically reminds me of the monks, and in the Champion's Ballad, the final boss fight is a monk.
And
so,
he's pretty tough.
He is pretty tough. So I'll take one more question here and then we'll move on. Well, it's not a question, I'm not sure. Bourbon Atomy, it's a question. What if the mystery person survives Age of Calamity and Breath of the Wild 2, the mystery person tells Zelda and Link to find Ganondorf's body and then turn against them? And then turns against them again. Maybe. It's like the person could be like a really, really old, decrepit person in Breath of the Wild 2. That's a possibility, actually. Like, there have been some theories, and I don't know if this is true or not, but there have been some theories that this character is the Prophet, which is mentioned in Breath of the Wild, apparently, or at least in that Breath of the Wild. I actually have the book, but point is there's some sort of prophet in the lore for Breath of the Wild that may have led Hyrule and the king astray, and they made some decisions that actually facilitated the takeover of Calamity Ganon. So this prophet, if that's the case, we may see proof of that in Age of Calamity, and if this prophet survives for the next 100 years, and it's kind of like an oldish character, kind of like Impa, but like an evil one, but poses itself as a good character to help the restoration of Hyrule, and leads Link and Zelda astray to resurrect Ganondorf. It could be kind of like a cyclical thing where this prophet did something terrible in the past and in the future as well. That would be neat to see. So maybe there's something there.
I feel like Zelda would remember though.
Maybe they don't.
How does he trick Zelda twice?
Because the person doesn't look the same anymore after 100 years.
I guess maybe. How different could you look over 100 years? I feel like he's
have you
still
seen
somewhat
Impa?
able to recognize somebody.
Have you seen Impa? They look pretty
She's still
different.
Recognizable though.
Is she?
I guess.
Is she?
I feel like.
Here's your thing.
I don't know.
In Skyward Sword, you see Impa twice, but you don't know one of them is Impa until the very end. Think about that for a second. You didn't know it was Impa until the end of the game. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I'm just saying, it's been done before. They could do it again. They could have a character that we see young
though, because I feel like by personality, I don't think that personality would have changed too much.
Well,
I feel like you still should be able to recognize somebody by their personality alone.
Unless they're trying to fool you. Unless it's their job to fool you. Like, they don't want you to know what their real personality is. I'm not saying that's exactly
I don't know. Maybe he's good.
I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm just saying it's a possibility. There's a number of possibilities.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to play devil's
I'm not saying I'm right. I don't know. It's just an option.
I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it. It's not a prediction. It's just like one of a number of theories. So
it's an interesting theory. I like it.
Benjamin Johnson. Imagine playing as Calamity Ganon in a DLC. That'd be nuts. It would have to be like a different mode where you're just a giant monster killing everything, and that'd be fun. So it wouldn't have to be a different mode actually, because you consider how much damage you do with a single character. Yeah, it could work. I think it could definitely work. I don't know if I'll do it, but it would be neat. But let's put a pin on the Zelda discussion so we can talk about the other things, and then when we circle back to the Game Awards stuff, that's going to be a part of it. So I want your thoughts on this Fire Emblem situation here. So it wasn't a major thing, it wasn't like a brand new Fire Emblem game, but we are getting a localization of the original Fire Emblem on the Switch in December. And the trailer for it is what really sort of got me excited, because they start off with melee gameplay, and Nintendo gets like really fourth wall breaking, because they're like, oh my god,
it was so meta.
Yeah, that's what I really appreciated about it. Just them talking about, you won't know who this character is. Who's this character? Let's check the Melee Smash bio. Oh man, this Japanese only Nintendo character who kills things and is awesome, and they're like, well, here's the original game. So that's neat. I kind of appreciated that.
After 30 years.
The 30th.
I think this is the first time it's ever officially been brought over, like and translated. Which is
I've heard that it's on
30 years.
It's available on the Wii U eShop or something.
Yeah.
I don't understand the specifics on it.
Though. I don't know.
Yeah,
I heard, and I don't know if it's true, but I heard this is the first time it's actually like fully localized officially.
Fully localized officially.
Yeah. So it's kind of like Mother 3, but for Fire Emblem.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see something like that for Mother 3 soon. Maybe for its anniversary.
Maybe.
So one thing I want to sort of like point to about this, and this is a hint towards a video I have coming out next week, but this sort of goes to show that Nintendo kind of does care about its anniversaries. Like, this was not a major thing, but they still bothered to talk about it, which sort of gives me hope for, I mean, obviously Zelda, but say, for example, Metroid. Like, Fire Emblem was not as big as other franchises, and what they did wasn't anything huge, but they still had a tweet. They kind of gave us a little bit of history, was a little bit of a skit, and we get some sort of product. I think Nintendo could do something similar next year for Metroid, especially considering that they want to start building up attention and start marketing the Metroid series. With Metroid Prime 4, Nintendo's putting a lot of money and time into that. They restarted development for a game like deep into its life cycle and started from what we understand, basically scratch. That's a lot of money you just kind of lost there to make sure this works. Like they definitely want this game to do really well. So my point is they're going to start marketing it. And when we see things like this Fire Emblem 30th anniversary thing, I do feel like with Metroid's 35th anniversary, there's going to be something. And I'm not saying it's going to be like a Metroid 35th anniversary Nintendo Direct where like, oh, we're going to do all sorts of, there's going to be Metroid 99, there's going to be Metroid shoes, Metroid jackets. Actually, that would be really nice. So I would love to see a Metroid jacket, actually. Brandon, is your camera frozen? Yes. I lost Brandon. He got upset because I didn't mention Metroid mugs. He wanted to hear about Metroid mugs. Let me see what's going on here for a second. I'll give Brandon a moment. You coming back, Brandon?
Yeah.
Oh. Welcome back, buddy.
I think Discord just glitched.
Maybe.
No, I just had to leave the call and come back. I was like, is my internet messed up? No, it's not messed up. Is his internet messed up? No, it's not messed up.
I was watching because I was talking and you weren't responding and your face was so still. I was like, man, he must be really focused on what I'm saying.
He'd really just in gear for this podcast right now.
Yeah, so I don't know what you missed, but I was just kind of talking about how I feel like Nintendo does care about its anniversaries, and it kind of strengthens my belief that there's going to be something Metroid related next year.
I remember I was going to say, also with Fire Emblem, they just released Three Houses not that long ago.
Yeah.
So it's not like they would have had time for like a whole new game or really the need, because they still have Three Houses, so they didn't need to put out like something really big. For Metroid, they could put out something like a 2D Metroid or Prime Trilogy, because they haven't done anything with Metroid in a while, so they should, hopefully, fingers crossed, have something to go with that.
They have to. They have to have something. They're not gonna. We pretty much know for a fact. It's not like a fact, but it's fairly close to the 3D All-Stars Pikmin 3 Deluxe sort of situation, where we pretty much know that there is a couple Metroid games. Not a couple. There are 3 Metroid games in development. Prime 4 is known because that's officially confirmed. Prime Trilogy and 2D Metroid are not confirmed. So yes, take it with a grain of salt, but I'm telling you, they're probably in development. So, we're gonna see something Metroid sooner or later, and I don't think the first thing we're gonna see is Prime 4. Now, if we end up seeing like a Prime 4 teaser at the Game Awards, I'll just be happy to be wrong about that, right? Because that would be sick. But I feel like they're gonna focus on 2D Metroid and Prime Trilogy first before they do that. Yeah. So, you know, I think that it's just nice that we see Nintendo celebrating these anniversaries in this way. It doesn't have to be like this big marketing push with tons of merchandising. Just have like a little skit like that gives us a little bit of understanding of the history of this franchise. And something, if there could be a product there that it's not even necessarily a big deal, but it's something. And that's really cool. I mean, there's the collector's edition, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I like the effort they went in to actually like make a skit, not just be like upload a trailer with some gameplay footage and be like, oh, cool, it's a thing.
The best part of it was the skit.
Put like, that was really cool. They actually put the time and effort into that. Like, made it feel like a bigger deal, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah, it really did. It made it feel special. And I kind of want to see Nintendo do more of that in the future. Now, I think next year there's going to be a lot of big anniversary stuff as well, which sort of brings us into the next topic, actually. So, Pokemon's 25th anniversary is coming next year, right? Now, I don't know exactly what's going to happen with that, but there's for sure going to be some sort of new Pokemon game from Game Freak. And there's also new Pokemon
remake
Snap.
number 97.
Maybe number 97. Maybe that'll be the title. Kanto Remake 97. And then there's gonna be new Pokemon Snap and probably a couple other little things. And we'll probably see that early next year in a Pokemon Direct or something along those lines. But until then, we have the Crown Tundra DLC, which could be like, I don't want to say the end of this generation, but at least I think this is the end of Sword and Shield content. There may be obviously some patches and little events here and there, but in terms of like the big new content, that's it. And like I mentioned earlier, I haven't had a chance to play through it in its entirety yet. I'm still just kind of scratching the surface here. But from what I've seen of the Crown Tundra DLC, I do feel like it's more substantial than the Isle of Armor. The map seems a little bit larger. The world seems to be even more detailed. Visually, the game does seem to have taken another little jump. Like, so you have Sword and Shield, then you have Isle of Armor, which looks notably better, in my opinion, because there's just more going on. Like, there's more little details in the overworld, and it's an actual, like, explorable open area, the entire Isle of Armor, as opposed to Sword and Shield, which just has the wild area, and the rest are, like, not open wild area. And then Crown Tundra is like an even bigger version of Isle of Armor, and there's a town and things of that nature. There's more details there. They are continually moving in this direction of wild area gameplay, and I'm hoping the next big Pokemon game, Generation 9, so that what we get next year may not be that. It may be sort of like a remake that may not have fully wild area segments, but
Gen 9 next year, that'd be too soon.
No, it won't be.
They did take their time.
No, that's not what I meant. When we get Generation 9, which will be probably 2022, that I'm hoping and thinking will be fully wild area.
Hopefully.
2021, while I would love to see some wild area segments, I think it's going to be either Pearl and Diamond remakes or Let's Go Johto, which would include Kanto, by the way, so you'd still get your Kanto in there. I mean, they could totally do that. It's like, that's the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, so we're going back to Kanto, but also Johto, so don't worry.
Both this time, guys.
Yeah, both this time. Which, by the way, on the note of Johto and Kanto, because they're connected, there were a lot of theories that Galar was connected to Kalos, because it's like Great Britain and France, like that's what they're sort of based off of.
It was like a big thing.
That's one of the things we sort of learned from we're seeing the Crown Tundra. So I'm all over the place, so give me a second. Sword and Shield, when the game was coming out, there were a lot of theories. We saw the map, given the whole influence on Great Britain and how Kalos, X and Y are based off of France. There was belief that there could maybe be a connection there, and there was even on the map like a railroad that went south, and we didn't know where it went. Well, in Crown Tundra, we now do. That secret railroad to the side of the map takes you to the bottom part of Galar, which is a Crown Tundra, and it is the bottom part because there's then water. So there's no secret connection to Kalos. But, it's still cool. Crown Tundra is a nice little area there. And like I said, visually, I think the game's taken a nice little jump. And I'm enjoying what they've been doing with the legendaries. The legendary birds are roaming in the wild area throughout the open areas of Sword and Shield, not just the Crown Tundra, actually. So that's awesome. And the way they are handling the legendaries in this game are also really cool, because you have these raid dens you can do teams with, and there's some thinking you have to do. So there's some strategy you have to do with your teammates, because there's that final legendary boss, that has a type, and you have a rentals that you're forced to sort of pick, and then you have to sort of strategize with your team. Okay, which direction should we go to get different types that may benefit us at the end? And I'll say that sometimes if you do things a little off, you could lose. Like we lost once yesterday, so it's possible to lose, and that threat of loss, while I'm not saying it's super hard, but just because it's possible, it could happen occasionally, that gives you some tension, which to me is good. And Brand, I feel like for you that would be a good balance, because you don't like it when something beats you down, but when you could lose, it kind of forces you to think, and if you can just make sure you barely do it, there you go. So
as long as it's hard enough to where I actually have to think and use all of the game's mechanics, then it's fun. It's engaging. Yeah. But it's not. I don't have to replay the same thing over and over again, because I can't beat it.
And I really do like this mode, because there's that strategy there, and it's something you can do with your friends. So while I was initially disappointed because I saw it wasn't something you could explore in a 3D environment with your teammates, like an actual dungeon sort of situation, this is not that bad. It's in a way, some ways it might be better, because there's some strategy there, and it's a fun way to sort of interact with your friends, especially for some friends who aren't necessarily into that other kind of stuff. Because with Pokemon, it appeals to a very large audience, and it's not a game that's built for necessarily hardcore gamers like the Dark Soul, Zelda fans necessarily. Obviously some of those kinds of fans are into Pokemon, but there's a lot of other people that play Pokemon that are, I guess, have simpler tastes. And Game Freak, with their development, they're always thinking about that, because they're a very wide audience. And looking up this mode, it sort of sticks to the Pokemon gameplay. It doesn't stray away too much from that. And it's still fun, and there's still that strategy there. So I actually like the decision they made. I think it may actually overall have been a better decision than what I was hoping it was going to be. Even though it would have been really cool to see 3D dens to explore.
Yeah. The one thing, as somebody who's not really super into Pokemon, but something I keep looking at Pokemon because I get its potential to become a series that I enjoy. It just does. It's not that it's bad and I want it to be better. It's just different than what I enjoy. But it's doing things that are appealing to me now. But one thing I really want is just when you go into a fight with a Pokemon, I don't want to go to a separate arena. I just want to stay in the overworld.
Yeah.
I just want it to just transition.
Seamless transition.
Yeah. Kind of like I saw that new Yakuza game, Like a Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, where you just run up to enemies and it just transitions to battle, just right where you are.
I'm okay with a camera shift, but it's almost like there's pretend it's one of the Lakito Bros, right? And they're following you on a camera, and then you just see them sort of zoom in or something, and then the camera starts panning in that stadium style. But it's not a transition where you see the Pokeball or the black screen or something and it switches over. That would be nice to see, actually.
Pre-rendered stadium.
And I think there's still room.
The overworld.
I still think there's room to have those sorts of transitions, when it's a gym battle or when you're battling online. Things like that. You can still have the traditional sort of transition for Pokemon battles, but if it's in the wild area where you're running into wild Pokemon, just seeing the camera zoom in like that, that would be nice to see.
Because the overworld is so much more detailed than those pre-rendered environments. Like there's a lot, especially like in the background. There's just the detail drops off so quickly. But if it's just like in the main world, it looks so much better and it's just more cohesive than just like randomly teleporting to this like fourth dimension to do battle.
I guess part of the problem with that is the way the Pokemon is designed right now, though, is that there would be some challenges. For example, there are random encounters where you don't see what the Pokemon is until after the fact, and a lot of Pokemon fans want random encounters. And I like what they did in Sword and Shield. That it was sort of like a compromise where you still had roaming Pokemon, but if you go on the grass, you see that exclamation point, and it's a random encounter. You still get that kind of surprise factor.
You can still do random encounters.
The random encounters could be the ones that don't have the transition, and then the ones that are roaming have the seamless transition, where it's just like, hey, the camera zooms in, here's the battle.
I think they can do both the same. I think simply, you know,
maybe you do some
the random encounters just pop up, you know, the exclamation point, and then it transitions. Just pop up the exclamation point, have like the shadow essentially that you kind of see, like the grass will run
like
out,
evaporates or something,
and then you see, you see what the Pokemon is.
Okay.
You're like, oh, there it is, right there.
So here's another potential challenge with these seamless transitions, which I think is a cool idea. Let's say you find a Pokemon in tall grass. The tall grass is then a part of the stadium that you're fighting in, or the stage, and if it's a small Pokemon, you can't even really see the Pokemon if it's in the tall grass. You see the issue with that?
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, technically, they could have it. It depends.
I think, like, if they were to do this,
I'm not sure.
If they were to do this, maybe what could happen is that Pokemon has like a battle cry, and it does some sort of attack, and that attack sort of wipes the grass in front of it to sort of clear a path so you can see it visually, something like that. Or maybe what happens is when the battle initiates, you see them sort of move into place into an area that's nearby where the battle actually happens.
See, that's the thing. It's like, it depends, because if you're on more like a route, then that's easy. Then you just move
right.
off.
But if you're in tall grass, it's not that simple.
If you're just in like a more of a wild area, then I feel like there is a way to get around this. I'm just currently not thinking of it.
Another thing they can do is not have it be like a seamless transition. Still have the traditional transition where you see like a Pokeball or something like that to signify a battle, but you still see the actual environment around you, not something that's kind of like it. I hate it like if I'm in the water and if I'm fighting and all of a sudden I'm like on land or vice versa. That doesn't make any sense, you know? So what they could do is maybe just pick an area that's like just close enough to where the battle would make sense, and you still see generally we're actually exploring.
Yeah, that'd work.
Yeah, and they do that to somewhat of an extent now, but it's not really the case, because like I said, you sometimes get battle on things that aren't actually what you're on. It happens, and it kind of takes away from the immersion a little bit, because you're like, hey, I was not there, why am I here now? It's funny, but I do hope that they sort of improve upon that, and I think they will. They're going to slowly make improvements as we progress. I definitely think that will happen. Let's see, D Fox. There's lots of content in the Crown Tundra. There's quests total. One of them with Sonia, and there's 5. There's 5 quests total. One of them with Sonia instead of Peony. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that the Crown Tundra has some extensive content in there. So that's exciting. Like I said, I haven't gone too deep into it yet, but from what I've seen, the way they're handling legendary Pokemon, that seems fun. The roaming legendary birds also seem like a nice little touch, and the environment seems to definitely have taken a nice graphical jump compared to Isle of Armor and base Sword and Shield. So I think it's very promising, and I'm kind of excited to see what's next for Pokemon. But Brandon, I know you have nothing more to say on that. If you guys have questions in the chat or things you want to say, put it out there. We will get to it. But I think now we should move on to the next topic. So let's go back to the Game Awards, and then once we're done with speculating on what's next for the Game Awards, we'll then talk about the whole Michael Pachter situation. So the Game Awards is coming, and I don't care for what's gonna get voted in. No. Like, Nintendo probably isn't gonna have that big of a presence this year, actually. Because yeah, the awards, it's just it feels very political.
Not really gonna get nominated for anything.
No, they have like 4 original games this year.
Animal Crossing could get nominated for something.
It'll get best. It will win best family game.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
It needs to win something.
I'm saying
else,
it's a fact, even though it's not a fact.
Best
but
family game. It's gotta win. I feel like it's gonna get multiple awards because you don't sell that well and be like a
they don't care about
phenomenon.
They don't care about sales. Sales don't matter.
But they care about like
they care about their narrative.
Trendy things though. And I feel like Animal Crossing was super trendy.
It's gonna get best family game. I will be surprised if it's a game of the year candidate. Even though by sales and reviews it maybe should be, that's not the metrics they use.
I think it'll get voted for a couple of other things though.
Yeah. AR64 is suggesting that Age of Calamity could be nominated. I
highly doubt that.
It's not that I don't think the game I think the game's gonna be great. I don't believe it will be nominated though. Maybe for best Muso game.
Is that the right type of game?
I think it could definitely be a nomination for best action game. But for game of the year, given that it's a Muso game, I just don't see it happening. I really don't. Even though it has the Zelda branding with it, because it's a Muso game, because it's technically a spin-off, even though it's like a canon spin-off, I don't see it happening.
If it somehow got nominated one, and so the prequel, Breath of the Wild and Breath of the Wild 2 eventually when it came out, and it's gonna be Game of the Year probably. So it wins Game of the Year, and then all 3 pieces in Game of the Year do that. Yeah, that'd be insane. It's not gonna happen because I don't think it's even gonna get nominated, but just the dream.
Yeah, Benjamin W said Ghost of Tsushima might be Game of the Year. I think that has.
I think it'll be nominated, but I don't think it'll win.
There's also The Last of Us 2, right?
Was that this year?
I believe it was.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Sony had a lot of big hitters early in the year.
This year's way too long. It feels like that came out so long ago.
Yeah.
There's no way it came out this year.
But point is, the nominations isn't really something I care about necessarily. As we get closer to the Game Awards, we may sort of talk about that though, like what we think may come, what sort of Nintendo nominations there may be. But what we want to talk about are the potential announcements. That's why people watch the Game Awards, the announcements. So what kind of a Nintendo announcements will there be? I think the obvious one that everyone's going to talk about is Breath of the Wild 2. Are we going to see it then? Brandon, I'm sort of curious on what your perspective is on that.
To be honest, I don't think it's very likely. I think it's possible, but I'm not betting for it. I don't know if it's just because I've been wrong so many times about what they're going to show at the Game Awards. Because they always show something. It's always something interesting, but it's never what I think it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So just that also kind of skews my predictions. But no, I don't think Breath of the Wild 2 will be there. I think they'll probably wait till like a January or February direct to show that game off again. And then if E3 is a thing next year, then they'll blow it out there. I don't think they maybe we'll get a tease at the Game Awards, but I don't know. I feel like I'm not expecting it.
So I'll
it would
say
be
that,
so See, my hype though, I think about it, I'm like, oh man, that's like right after, a couple weeks after Age of Calamity, that'd be really cool. And then tease it at the Game Awards and then show it off more in the direct, but it's just I'm holding myself back from getting swept away on the hype train.
So let's go back to Game Awards 2019. It's the last Game Awards. We had high expectations.
Yes.
Because the year before we got Smash DLC, the year before was Bayonetta 3. And there was also Champions Ballad DLC as well. And the year before that was Breath of the Wild. like there's a lot, like, there was decent stuff at the Game Awards the last 3 years, and then I think it's also worth noting that the Game Awards 2018 was heavily rumored to get Metroid, and the theory right now is that it was actually pulled from the show last minute because of the Metroid Prime 4 delay. So that may have been in the cards then, and that may have come alongside the Smash DLC, which would have been so hype. Point is, there's a history of pretty big Nintendo stuff at the Game Awards, save for last year. So that's sort of like, kind of, it puts a damper on our expectations, because we've seen how bad, or I don't want to say bad, but minimal it could be.
It's just
minimal.
This is not a show, like, you shouldn't expect to be, like, have announcements that are, like, blowing your mind. It's not really what the show's about.
I guess the idea behind something that blows your mind is that it's not something you expected because it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's not
just,
within the scope of your thought process.
I feel like we saw Breath of the Wild in the Game Awards one time, and then we were like, and now we're just like, oh, surely because of that, because they showed off this, like, really, really small snippet of, like, really early, like, the game literally doesn't look like that anymore, footage of the game. Now we're like, oh, surely Game Awards is... I feel like that, just because I showed that, now people are expecting Breath of the Wild 2 to be shown at the Game Awards.
So, I want to point something out.
I just want to say, like, it may never be shown at the Game Awards, guys. Just because it was shown, just because the first Breath of the Wild was shown off, doesn't mean the sequel will.
That is true.
Game Awards.
But at the same time, I want to sort of highlight something about last year's Game Awards that I only sort of realized recently. So, going into Game Awards 2019, we had high expectations because of the previous Game Awards that had pretty decent Nintendo announcements. What we got was, Marvel Ultimate Alliance DLC, not DLC of a game that not too many Nintendo fans are excited for. Some are, but no. Bravely Default 2 and No More Heroes 3, which is exclusive for Switch. Like, we saw that, and yeah, that's pretty good. None of that. I mean, Bravely Default 2 and No More Heroes 3 are not coming out this year at this point. Bravely Default 2 might, but it's already like the end of October, and we still haven't gotten an announcement about it. So I don't think it's going to make it for December at this point.
Yeah. Didn't Square just recently put out something that
they said that they were definitely impacted? They didn't confirm that Bravely Default 2 wasn't going to make it out,
but they did say development, like, halted, like, completely for a while. So.
Yeah, I think Bravely Default 2 is going to be it's going to come out early next year. But the point is, that was it. It wasn't that significant. And looking at what 2020 was, well, maybe the reason why there wasn't that much to show off at the Game Awards was because there wasn't that much to show off for 2020, period. So what I'm getting at here is that this Game Awards might be a little bit better because 2021 may have a lot of things to show off, and because there'll be such a large pool of things to show off, they'll have a little bit more ammunition for nice little announcements at the Game Awards this time around. 2021 is seeming like a really big year. We've talked about the last few weeks. There have been reports about this Switch revision, and in those reports, they talk about how there seems to be a lot of games lining up to come out in 2021. It's starting to look like 2021 might be that peak year. Obviously, we think Breath of the Wild 2 is around the corner. Like, it's not confirmed for 2021, but we think it's a likely bet. We know we're getting
on 2021. I will be shocked.
Monster
I'll quit. I don't know when I'm quitting, but I'll quit it.
Quit something.
Quit.
Yeah.
Something. I'll find something.
No tacos for weeks.
Just quit it. I'll just like go to one of those sites that like shows you everything you're signed up for, and I'll just quit something just randomly. I'll just close my eyes. But I quit. I'll just quit it.
There you go. But there's gonna be a lot of games next year, and we already know about new Pokemon Snap, Breath of the Wild 2, Shin Megami Tensei 5, Monster Hunter Rise. There's gonna be a new big Pokemon game.
This Game Awards will be better than last year.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure it'll be the things that people are expecting. Like, I
Right,
don't know
like
if it'll
just
be
because
Zelda and Metroid.
it might be something else. It might be Super Mario Odyssey 2 and Mario Kart 11 Team.
11.
Yeah, it's coming. Just you wait. You'll see. Yeah, it could be Metroid though, as Discount Link suggested. Maybe.
I don't think it will be. I would. That would be epic. I just don't think it will. Been burned too many times.
Yeah.
Metroid at the Game Awards. Metroid will never be at the Game Awards.
So
just tease.
I had a video about it. I had a video about it last week while I was on vacation, and my ultimate prediction was that either Breath of the Wild 2, Smash, Bayonetta, or Metroid, at least one of those things will show up at this year's Game Awards. That's my prediction. One of those 4 things will show up.
Smash
Kitty,
makes
go
sense.
Go that way.
Smash honestly makes the most sense to me.
So here's my thing about that. With Smash, you have a situation where we just got Steve and Alex, and they kind of are spacing out this DLC a little bit more. So to see an announcement 2 months later might be a little soon, but it doesn't have to be like a straight up gameplay breakdown. It could just be like a teaser, kind of like what they did for Joker. And we didn't get Joker till like what, like a month and a half later or something?
Yeah. Dude, no, it was way longer than that. We didn't even see Joker for a while. Like, we didn't see him in game till like March or something ridiculous.
Joker release date. Because we saw him a couple times. April 17th?
Yeah, dude, it was a while. That's what I'm saying, bro.
So
it was a bit.
If that's, considering that timing there, then yeah, we could definitely have a situation where we get like a Smash reveal, but it's not like, it's more like a teaser, and the actual gameplay breakdown for the character isn't until a couple months later. I wouldn't predict April for the next Smash character. I would say maybe like late January, February.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe as late as March.
Yeah. I think February is kind of like the best bet, but March is a possibility.
But yeah, we didn't even see his in-game model till like March.
Yeah, they like showed like the model in a direct or something from what I vaguely remember. It wasn't gameplay, like, really? It was like just the model.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of like a Mewtwo situation, which I hate. I hate that. Like, I remember, I think for Smash for Wii U and 3DS, they said they were working on Mewtwo, and it was just like a model. Like, come on, give me more than a model. But you know, that is what happened. So I'm of the frame of mind that this Game Awards will have something cool for Nintendo fans. Don't expect Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4, and a Smash character all there at once, but maybe one of those things. Not all of them, maybe one of them, or maybe it's something else really cool like Bayonetta 3 or Mario Odyssey 2, or perhaps another look at a new Pokemon Snap. You know, that maybe that can happen.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, keep in mind the 25th anniversary for Pokemon's coming up. Maybe they want to do things a little differently.
I wouldn't be surprised if Pokemon Snap is like a first quarter 2021.
I think it's going to be fairly early. Yeah. They don't... When Pokemon Company makes announcements for their games, especially when it has gameplay, they're not going to have you wait like years. That never happens. It all happens within the year.
Yeah.
So I do think it's coming fairly soon. I doubt it's gonna... It comes out within a year of when it's announced. So I think the latest we see this is summer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
it would be pretty good, like really early summer, like April or June or something.
Mm-hmm.
Be good for that.
Yeah. Let me check in with the chat here. See what you guys are saying about potential Game Award stuff. Birdman is actually saying, I think there will be another DLC for Sword and Shield. I don't know about that, but or you said or a remake. I think a remake is more likely at this point. Benjamin W. I expect either Breath of the Wild 2 more on 3D World plus Bowser's Fury or DLC for Age of Calamity. I think those are pretty good predictions, actually. Like 3D World or DLC for Age of Calamity isn't as hype as Breath of the Wild 2, but would still be pretty cool. I do think they need to talk about Bowser's Fury at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe
they showed
Game
if they
Awards.
just had a trailer and it just was more Bowser's Fury, like showing what that was.
That'd be nice.
I'd be
I
hyped.
would be pleased for that. Yeah. DE Fox, Ghost of Tsushima is going to be Game of the Year guaranteed. I should probably play it, but I
really want
time.
to play it, but I want to wait to get my
need more
PS5.
time.
But I don't know when I'm going to be able to get a PS5 because
I'm not going to get it. At this point, I'm not getting it at
also.
launch, no.
No, I'm not going to be able to get it at launch, but as soon as I can get it, I'm getting it because I don't. Not to take away from the Nintendo podcast here, but I'm just as hyped for the PS5, I think, as when the Switch was coming out. Almost just as hyped.
No. It's not even close, dude. Breath of the
I got.
No.
Once Ratchet and Clank comes out, that's when I'm gonna be like, I need this. I have to have it.
I'll say that the game that I really wanted to
that's
be
my
a launch
killer
title
app that I'm waiting for.
was Demon's Souls.
It is a launch title.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what I get with my bonus at work. Maybe I'll pick it up.
Yeah. Dude, if money
sometime
was
this
no,
holiday
yeah,
season.
I've got a pre-order, but I can't.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
hoping to get
money, man.
some real talk in the middle of the podcast, but I'm hoping to get a better job at the taste. Like 50% or more than what I'm getting paid right now. Get me a PS5 with that extra cash. Not be living paycheck to paycheck, so I can actually afford a PS5.
Instead of eating just ramen.
Just ramen all day.
Not saying you're just eating ramen.
No, I made
guys,
spaghetti today, actually, guys. It was good. I actually ran out of ramen. I was like, seriously? I don't even have ramen? What is this? I don't even have ramen. I had other things.
I want to go eat
fun.
like
I didn't have
fancy ramen now.
Dude, I've been to a place here because Houston is like one of those places where we just have everything, every different type of food that you could imagine. We have restaurants that.
There's restaurants in the
Pretty
city.
much.
Would have never thought.
Yeah. Shut up.
Imagine there's restaurants in Breath of the Wild too.
Dude,
It'd be
they're
neat.
kind
Like,
of-
what if they sort of like expand upon the cooking idea, and there's like cooking mini games to like prove how great of a cooker you are after all your cooking in the wild at these restaurants to compete with them. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Or like if there's a market.
They had
There's gotta be a
competitions
market.
and stuff in
Or-
Xenoblade and Torna.
Yeah. Or like a bazaar, or is it bazaar or bazaar?
Bizarre. I've
Bazaar.
never heard somebody say bazaar before. That just sounds wrong.
I want to
If it's
say that I
bazaar,
usually
I'm genuinely
pronounce
gonna
it
be
as
upset with
bazaar,
that.
but I've never heard anyone ever say
Bazaar.
it out loud, so I'm not sure how it's actually
I'm pretty sure
pronounced.
it's bizarre. If it's not bizarre,
Is it
I will
bizarre?
not
Sounds
accept
it sounds almost like bizarre.
Bazaar. I'm pretty sure it's not bazaar. 'cause
It's
that's
probably
just
bizarre. Probably.
bizarre.
I don't know though.
Bizarre.
It's
Bizarre.
I bet it's bizarre.
Sounds close.
I'm gonna look it up. See the thanks for that.
But yeah, my point was that I've been to a ramen place here, and it's my friends who have been to Japan, or my uncle.
Bizarre.
My uncle has been to Japan, said it tastes. That's the closest ramen he's ever had to actual ramen he had in Japan. So it's the closest in America he's ever had, and it was really, really good.
Let me just check with the chat here. Ronnie Fazio added me. I'd be fine if Ghost of Tsushima wins Game of the Year, just because that would be the first for Sucker Punch Productions. I want to play Ghost of Tsushima. I do think it seems like a really good game.
It has a 60 FPS mode on the PS5, and I'm like, yes, I need. So that's gonna make the gameplay a lot smoother.
It is tempting. JM0235. Andres, are you excited for Cyberpunk? Not really. Not that I don't think it's cool. It just hasn't been on my personal radar. That's it. I mean, maybe when it comes out, I hear more about it.
Cyberpunk interests me
about it.
because the graphics are like ridiculously good. So.
Yeah, guys. The thing is that I'm like a hardcore Nintendo fan, so I kind of only pay attention to that. So
See,
like,
if you,
I do
you
play
should
other stuff, but it's mostly
focus the
Nintendo.
questions to me because I am a big Sony fan. I know a lot more about these things.
I know more about.
I need to get a PlayStation. That's the funny thing is you have a PlayStation, I don't, but I'm a way bigger Sony fan than you.
Maybe I'm not saying I'm not gonna get a PS5. It's just kind of more of a time money thing. Like
Mine's
it's a matter
like
of
I
when,
would sacrifice.
if.
I would sell if I could get enough money. I would sell all of my Switch collection, all the games I've beaten.
All right, I'm
I'd sell
blocking
them
it
all.
out. You're not allowed to say that.
I
on
probably
Nintendo
will.
Podcast.
I probably will.
You can't say that.
Not allowed to say that on Nintendo podcast. No, but I probably will sell games back to GameStop that I've already beaten towards
If you're
PS5.
done with
They'll
them.
probably give me extra
Yeah.
money for them. Yeah, if I'm done with them, I'll sell that shit back. I did that already for a couple games, like Nintendo, like to put back in the Switch games. Like when I bought Mario Anniversary Edition, which I could probably get a good amount. I could probably sell that for a good amount. Yeah, not like a lot, but like I could get my money back for it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know why are we talking about the PS5 again? I don't even remember.
Because you're a Sony pony.
Yeah, this is true.
No, just kidding. Let me catch up with the chat here, and then let's sort of get to the final topic. Birdman, what about a Pokemon collection, Gen 1 through 7? I don't believe that will happen.
Oh my god!
I want to point out that
Gen 1 through 7.
That while Nintendo has like semi-owns Pokemon Company sort of handles most of what they are doing, and Game Freak has their own design directions. They're not like wholly owned by Nintendo.
Nintendo does not really influence their decisions much.
Right, exactly. So they're not going to be on the same wavelength when it comes to collections. And I'll just say that even if Pokemon was wholly owned by Nintendo, I still wouldn't expect a Gen 1 through 7 collection. That's a little much. Be cool, but I don't expect
games.
it. Yeah, no, I don't expect that. But definitely, I think some sort of remake is likely for next year. DE Fox, next year could be hype. Sonic's 30th anniversary, Zelda's 35th anniversary. We could get a Zelda collection and also a Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. There may be something big for Sonic next year. I can see that happening. And Zelda, we've talked about that ad nauseum. There's definitely a lot of Zelda stuff happening next year. Dennis, love the cute cat in the background. Onyx appreciates that you think he's cute, even though... Oh, he's just sort of chilling there, actually. You can't see him on camera right now, but he's there. Yeah. Birdman, I want to see Zelda's mother in Age of Calamity. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll get a little bit more perspective on what happened to her mother. Or just the story of her. That would be interesting. So, yeah, in terms of Game Awards stuff, I think it's reasonable to expect some sort of Nintendo announcement, especially considering that 2021 is going to be a bigger year than 2020. So there's a lot more that they could potentially show off. But now let's transition into the Michael Pachter situation. Sometimes I say Packer. It's Pachter. So let me pull up this article here. He said some heinous things, and the video I put out on Saturday, I pretty much covered my thoughts. For Brandon, I definitely want to hear what you think on this. Let me sort of put that there. So this is an article on Nintendo Life. Now, does this show the whole thing? Did I pull up the wrong article? I think I pulled the wrong article. Hold on a second. I pulled the wrong article because I wanted to read the whole thing. I think I only pulled up a piece. Yeah. Hold on, I'm gonna get it. So I think the original article is from Gaming Bolt. I think I got it. Okay. All right. Now I now have what we're looking at. Okay. There we go. All right. So, I don't really understand the whole hybrid concept. I think that was something Iwata did to differentiate the Switch. And he wanted to have a console that could go back and forth from console to portable. But I don't think most people play it in both modes. I would say that maybe 20% of Switch owners play both modes, and I think most Switch owners play it handheld only. So honestly, I don't understand the whole point of the hybrid. Who cares? Play it as a handheld. So firstly, that 20% thing is complete bogus. That is not even remotely true. Oh, we've gotten reports from Nintendo that it's about 50-50. So, Pachter, you're a liar, and I hate you. I'm just kidding. I mean, hate's a strong word, and I don't think he was trying to lie. I just think he was pulling out a number. He pulled it out of somewhere.
Ass.
Yeah, because it's just wrong. But, I don't think his intent was to lie. He just wasn't speaking from any knowledgeable perspective.
He didn't even give a source on the number. He's just like, yep, 20%. Like, okay, like.
Well, he says.
Say where you heard that.
This is what he said. It was a guesstimate. It was an estimate. He said, I would say that maybe 20% of Switch owners. So that's just like his opinion. Like, I feel like
off
it's
what information?
20%. Yeah, based off nothing.
Based off what, bro?
Based off his skewed
You have to
perspective.
have information to base off. You can just like be spouting random stuff into the into the ether, into the internet. Like,
It's just crazy.
You're a professional.
Let me finish reading the quote, and then we'll break it all down. So he continues, and Nintendo isn't that smart, so you never know what they will do next.
He's not that smart.
But I think the smart thing would be to get rid of the Switch console and only have the Switch Lite. Get rid of the docking station. Get rid of playing on the TV. Maybe offer a Fire Stick style dongle for those who do want to play it on the TV. But I think that a portable only Switch makes the most sense. It's the cheapest to make, and they can make the screen nicer and the build quality better. Let me just finish the quote, or the series of quotes. I am not sure what we will see from them next generation. If there will be upgraded processing power, they should at least put some flash memory in it so you can download some games and not have to screw around with the cartridges. So, like, it's just a lot of nonsense. Of Brandon, I'm curious what you think. How do you feel about his? First of all, like that second and third quote are entirely contingent upon his false fact of 20%. Because it's just not true.
I play in docked mode like 99% of the time. So,
yeah, maybe you're the 20%.
I care.
Michael Pachter.
Yeah, I'm 100% of the 20%. It's me. It's just me. Everybody else is playing handheld, and they're all like, who's this guy playing docked, swinging the percentages? No, but yeah, I don't understand what he's going at. Like, why do you want them to get rid of options? Like, I can understand if the Switch Lite didn't exist, and he's like, we should make a portable only Switch. Like, yeah, that makes sense. That's what they did. But why would they get rid of the other machine? Like, maybe I can understand this if the Switch Lite was just selling so much better than the normal Switch, and the normal Switch was like not really selling. But it's not. That's not how it is.
It's
like, the normal Switch
really
outsells this Switch Lite. So
it's the largest part of the install base.
Yeah.
A lot of people get a Switch Lite are like, oh man, I can't dock my Switch Lite. Maybe I should have gotten a regular Switch. Like,
yeah.
No.
If this guy, it's weird. My issue with him is he takes his own personal like bias and personal thoughts and then just says it as fact, as if everybody agrees with him.
Well, what's crazy is that he's industry analyst. He does financials for other companies and predicts what's going to happen and things like. He's like, as someone who doesn't know what he actually does, he's sort of presented as a source of information that's reliable. But when it comes to Nintendo, I'm not saying he doesn't know things. I'm not saying he isn't good at what he does. But I'm sure there are. As I said in my video multiple times, he has a job for a reason. But for whatever reason,
Somehow.
people interview him occasionally about Nintendo, probably because they know it'll get clicks. But when it specifically comes to Nintendo, this guy has a terrible, terrible track record. He pretty much always gets it wrong.
Dude,
He
it's
said the
laughable. It's like he won't. I feel like he's just sitting there laughing like, these fools clicking on this. I don't believe that shit.
Yeah.
I know this doesn't make any sense, but people are mad and they get upset because it's so wrong.
Yeah.
It gets so many views. I could totally see that. I don't know if that's true, but that's how bad this is. That's how much this makes no sense. Like,
So-
I'm legit like, is he just trolling?
I remember when Skyward Sword came out, and there was some sort of Game Awards show at the time, and he was on there, and there was comparisons to Skyrim, and he said, I don't remember. I'm paraphrasing here. This is from 2011. Okay, so cut me some slack, but from what I
9 years
remember, he basically said something along the lines of, and almost like kind of like an apologetic, sad kind of way. He's like, oh, you know, I feel bad for Nintendo. Like, it's sad, really. It's really sad that they've gone to this point. They can no longer really do what they used to do. Zelda is falling off. Skyward Sword was a great game, but it was a little divisive with the controls. But his point was that Zelda just was no longer great. It was no longer special. And you had things like Skyrim that were better. And I'll say that Skyrim probably should be praised more than Skyward Sword. Skyrim was definitely something that was more progressive for the industry. It does have a lot of issues. Like, if you want to break them down as just like individual experiences themselves, you could argue Skyward Sword's more polished for sure. But Skyrim was a very popular game, and it was a big deal in terms of open world adventures and such. It definitely was a pioneer for that. So I think it was. I would say this, that Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, was more important for games as a growing technology than Skyward Sword was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the point is that there's just a history of him just always kind of like painting Nintendo in a negative light. He thought the Vita would destroy everything, and Vita is like Sony's worst selling system ever. It's just, he has a lot of bad
That
taste.
system had a lot of potential. It was just Sony did like every move they made was the wrong decision every time. It's like, what are you doing? Stop, please.
Cool. Yeah.
It felt like that same feeling how Nintendo handled the Wii, where every time they announced something, you're like, God, this is worse. How do you make it worse? Why does it keep getting worse? Like, every decision they made was the wrong decision. That's how it felt.
So, let me ask you. I'm curious what your opinion about his thought process on the Fire Stick like dongle thing.
Doesn't even make sense. Like you said in your video, like, the dock offers way more than the dongle. Like, the dongle is something that would maybe be neat just to let you play your Switch Lite on the TV.
But the dock is so much more than that. You'd be sending the exact same image on the Switch Lite.
I don't want to play Doom on my TV at 356p. Like, I'm good.
Right. The Switch dock allows the Switch to run at a higher graphical setting. You get rid of that, you can no longer do that. Not to mention, having a stable internet connection through the dock, a wired internet connection, having USB ports. You lose all of that because of the not having a dock. If you stick with a Fire Stick dongle, and then your Switch is just gonna die if you are just always casting it with no power source connected. And I'm sure you could just plug it into a wall or something, but that's just not an ideal console experience.
You could make, like, if you wanted to make, sure, like, maybe people don't really like the dock because it's kind of big and bulky. Make a smaller dock. Make a new dock that's smaller, but still has the same amount of, like, ports. Because there's a lot of just, like, empty plastic in the current dock. Like, it could be slimmed down and still have the same amount of features or more.
You know, it'd be neat if they... So, here's, like, an idea. Let's say they do not drop the price for the Switch Lite. They do not drop this price for the regular Switch. And I actually don't see them doing that anytime soon because sales are still strong. They won't drop the prices for those systems until sales start to dip. So if you're hoping for a price drop, don't. Like, it's not going to happen until sales dip. Now, maybe after this holiday season, they do start to dip. But so far, that's not happening. But I can kind of see a situation where, let's say a Switch version comes out next year. That's $400. You have the base Switch at $300. You have the Switch Lite at $200. What if we have a situation where they release a dock and that's $100? So then you have like 4 different SKUs, each divided by $100. And what this dock does, it would be a new dock, maybe slightly improved version of this one that might have like a true Ethernet connection, for example. Maybe actually take advantage of USB 3.0 as well. Maybe actually have a feature to allow the Switch Lite to dock in as well. So for those people who didn't buy a regular Switch but now are like, oh, I have the Switch Lite, it'd be nice to have that dock option. Spend $100 on this new dock.
I have an incredibly hard time believing Nintendo will release a system for $400. Simply because I've talked about this a little bit before, but how do you release a Switch Pro at $400 when there's an Xbox Series S for $300? How do you do that?
Well, it's portable, so it's better.
I guess if that's $100 more, like I can understand like when the Switch came out and it was the same price, or maybe when the PS4 was on sale, it was a little bit more than the current gen. But this is $100 more.
The thing is, though, and I sound like I was joking, but I kind of meant it, because the Switch is portable. That adds a lot of value. Like, it's not, you can't look at it as just a home console, because it's not just a home console.
But I just don't think, because it's not a new system, I don't think it would sell well, because I feel like they would just buy the Switch and then they'd buy another system. I don't think they would go for the Pro. Like the Pro would need to be really good to sell for $400. Like it need to be really good.
Consider this: if the sales don't dip and the regular Switch still sells at $300, then you don't need to lower the price. If the regular Switch is still selling, then you don't need to lower the price. But like I said, right now sales haven't dipped. If we go into 2021, once the next generation systems are out there, maybe then they do start to dip, because as you're saying, Brandon, people start to notice that you have these very powerful systems, and the value of the regular Switch sort of changes a little bit in the minds of gamers and customers. So maybe that's when Nintendo does a price drop. That could maybe happen. And at that point, maybe the Switch version will be $350, $349.99. We're talking about US dollars here, so if you're from another country, I don't know what that would be. You'd kind of have to figure that out compared to the US dollar.
What I think makes the most sense in my head at this point in time is to lower the price when you release an upgraded system. Because I think the smart thing to do would be to have the Switch Lite at either lower the price to 180, or even you could just keep it at 200, I think. It'd be fine. Have the normal Switch be 250, and have the new Switch be either 300 or 350.
Well, let me ask you a question.
I think you want an option that's cheaper than the Xbox Series S, because then it's less of an issue of, do I want to get a next-gen system or do I want to get a Switch? But having an option then that's better, but it's not that much more expensive than it. It's like $50 more. I think that makes more sense.
Let me ask you a question, though, right? So, what if the Switch version comes out? I'm calling it Switch Plus for now. This is what it has. It has some sort of DLSS feature in it, even though we're not sure that it'll have it. But let's just say hypothetically it does. So what that suggests is that it has games upscaled to higher resolutions, maybe even 4K upscaling. Basically, games look a lot better on this Switch revision on Switch. They look a lot better visually, at least in terms of resolution, and frame rate is more solid. So that's something you're just guaranteed with that. But it's also a 1080p screen, and the dock has maybe additional internals, maybe because of that whole DLSS thing sort of going on. Maybe it has like a actual Ethernet port, and the battery life is notably better than the other Switches. Like it's basically pushed as a premium deluxe Switch with all of these different features. Would you say that would be worth the additional $100?
Over the normal Switch, yes, but I don't think it's worth $400. I think, well, it depends. I think no.
So what you're saying is the regular Switch is worth $300.
I don't think it is anymore, because there's no way the Switch is worth $300 when the Xbox One S exists. It might, like, gamers might be willing to pay that, because gamers are willing to pay way more than what things are worth for Nintendo, because they don't. I think gamers just don't expect Nintendo to lower it, so they're like, well, they're not going to, so we might as well just buy it now, because it's
still selling.
Wait, but they're not gonna. I think that's just the thing. Is like you could wait, but it's still not gonna go down sales. There's down price. So you might as well just buy it now, because there's not gonna be a sale. So don't wait for a sale. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's worth $300. I think it's worth like $250. I think that there's
a
lot better technology.
I want to go back to the Michael Pachter thing, because we sort of went off that for a little bit. So you agree that whole dongle thing he said is just stupid, right?
It's stupid.
Okay. So we're on the same page there. But on the note of stupidity, he said Nintendo isn't smart. What's your take on that?
That doesn't make sense, I feel, because Nintendo's not a person, it's a company. So first off, you can't. It's hard to judge. Like,
But it's
not always the
condescending, like,
same people
it's-
making the same decisions. So like you have different management over different periods, and the current management is the one that's in charge of everything that they did to change from the Wii U over to Switch, being massively successful. So you can't really say, like, maybe you could argue that the management wasn't being smart during the Wii U era, but it's just a collective. It's hard to say that when it's not one person. Like, the decision didn't come down to one person; it came down to a collective group, and
Well, he's saying the collective group
it's just
isn't
absurd.
smart. That's what he's saying. He's
Yeah,
implying.
I find that to be absurd.
This is what I feel like he's implying. He's implying that Nintendo as a whole is making decisions that aren't good enough, like that they aren't fully taking advantage of the resources they have.
I mean, in some ways, maybe you could make that argument. Like,
You could say that about any company, though, can't you?
yeah, you could say that about anything. Like,
Microsoft
everything's gonna fall.
should use their rare IP.
Yeah.
People would love that. They don't.
Nintendo should actually
Not really.
make good online, please.
They don't.
They don't.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something I could say about Sony right now, but
No,
it's not
Sony's
coming
perfect.
to my mind.
They're perfect. Can't. They're smart, apparently. So unless it comes to the Vita.
I mean, you could argue, as far as home consoles go, they're pretty. They've proven themselves to be very, very smart. Like,
Do a good
arguably
job.
the smartest. Like, they're the most successful in the home console territory by
Mhm.
far. So you can't, like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say that they're the best, but like by the numbers, technically, I could say you could say that they're the best, that they've sold the most consoles.
Well, the thing is, the Switch has been dominant. It's been the
Yeah,
best-selling
it's been
system
good,
for
so-
22 consecutive months, which is a new record. The last system to do that was the 360. So you could
Yeah.
very easily argue that the Switch has been it's been dominant for nearly 2 years straight. It's been the dominant force for this current generation, or whatever you want to call this generation.
What are we at? Like 60 million?
It's a lot.
50, 60 million?
It's a lot.
It's insane.
I think
I
we're-
remember the
yeah.
days of the Wii U where I'm like, we crossed 10 million! Woo, yeah. It's been 4 years. Woo.
Yeah, it was sad.
It was depressing watching the numbers, just like, this is not getting better.
Yeah, I feel like the Nintendo Switch is probably, because as of May 2020, it was at 56 million basically.
It's probably at 60 now.
Yeah. I think it's probably already it's close to passing the NES, if it hasn't already. So, yeah, I just, it's interesting how he feels that the need to say they aren't smart. Like, it really, like, I think he is kind of like a salty fanboy who's like pretending to be like a professional person. Like, it's just like, where is your need to say that they aren't smart? Like, I feel like that there's some hatred there, like, where is that coming from, and it may just be the case that it's all an act, right? Because it does bring in the clicks. He does kind of give me a Skip
He's like a fanboy
Bayless
who
feel.
was given a podium. Why? Like, he's like one of those
Fanboy
random
with a
people
podium.
you see under like PlayStation tweets who you just cringe because they're fanboying, but he's like actually like a source. Like, what the heck? Why? How did you get where you are? Who gave you a voice?
Nah, I don't know. I mean, he even suggested Nintendo should put more flash memory in the Switch, but that's shortly after talking about how they can make the Switch cheaper. Like, flash memory would not lower the cost of the Switch; it would increase the cost of the Switch.
I think they could add a little bit. I just don't think they really need to. I've done price checks
SD
on
cards
the
are
exact. Yeah, it is. But I've done price checks on the exact memory that they use in that Switch, and like how much it costs to buy in bulk. which like similar cost to what Nintendo might be getting, and it'd be another like $3 or $4 to add another 32 gigs. So I mean, like I guess they could make it like 64 or 128, but they're not gonna add like 500 gigabyte or terabyte Switch model. That doesn't make any sense because it's gonna be more expensive than just have people get SD cards. Like it's cheaper that way. But I would like to see like a 128 gigabyte model. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Just like, have something when you're first getting your Switch to put games on. Because 128 gigs for like Nintendo system is so much different than 128
Well, maybe
gigs
on this
for, like,
Switch
Xbox.
Plus, you'll have more flash memory, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 64 or 128 because I think that'd be like $10 more for them to make.
With the Wii U, didn't it come in a 16 gigabyte SKU and a 32 gigabyte SKU?
Yeah, I think it was 32 gigs.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was so bad, bro. The white model, I think they had it for 8.
Yeah, and the Switch only has 32, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like so little.
So I feel like they could bump it up to 128.
Yeah.
I only have like 64 gigs total, including because I only have a 32 gigabyte SD card. That's it. So I hold a surprising amount of games on there though. So like 128 gigs on the Switch would actually feel like comfortable for internal storage. Because I mean, like Breath of the Wild's like what 13 gigabytes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have 128. That's like you can almost hold 10 Breath of the Wilds in there.
I hear you there.
That's pretty good. That's good. I can only hold like 5 games on my Xbox.
I see your point. I want to, as Birdman pointed out, Birdman said it's already past the NES. It's at 62 million units. They just double checked. There's an article here from August 15th that the set ports the Switch at 62.03 million, passing the NES. So yeah, the Switch is already, it's well into the 60 millions already.
That means it's the second best-selling Nintendo console.
And that was a few months ago already. So the Switch could be like approaching 70 million or something by this point, potentially. Maybe not that much, but...
I think it would definitely pass 70 million by the end of the year. It might even be 80 by the end of the fiscal year. 80 to 90? Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
What are they forecasting, I wonder? Probably like near...
I think
like
I read something that they were
which
like
is
preparing
insane,
like 30 million Switches.
Like, I am 100% certain they will pass 100 million Switches next year.
Yeah. I think so. Absolutely. It's crazy. Which just sort of goes to show that to suggest that Nintendo isn't being smart is not smart because they are doing so well. They're doing so well. I just don't know. It's perplexing, but it's just one of those things where you gotta think it's just something that's done for clicks. So, when it comes up, we can break it down point by point and talk about how dumb it is, which is what we've done. But I don't believe this guy.
Off the topic of Pachter, I want to briefly at least bring up the topic we were talking about where we were talking about, is the Switch worth $300?
Well, let's go back to that because I think we're done with this Pachter
Pro would
nonsense.
be worth.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a point. The Xbox Series S is marketed as a 1440p console for $300. I think if the Switch Plus comes out and markets itself as like a 1440p or 4K machine at $350, I think they can get away with that because even if it is more expensive than next gen, I mean, we had that with the Switch. It was $300 for less powerful machine where typically on sale you could get a PS4 for like $50 cheaper than that. That was a similar like gap. Like you still like it's marketed as a 1080p machine, so is the PS4. It doesn't really always do 1080p, which the Plus probably would not really.
So
do
they can market the Switch with 4K
everything.
capabilities.
Yeah, but you can market that, so it's in the same like box. Like the Switch is marketed as a 1080p machine. Most games don't run at 1080p. This could be marketed as a 1440p machine, but most games probably won't hit that. So it can still be in the same class, and even though it's $50 more, it's got that portability, and so that makes it, worth that extra money. That's what I think makes the most sense. Because if you're $100 more, I feel like that's a little bit too much. Because then for only $100 more, you can get the fully fleshed out
Yeah, but the
PS5
Series S
or
is a digital
Xbox
only
Series
system.
X.
It's not as powerful as a Series X. Like, it's not portable. Like, it's
still a very, very like capable machine. Like it's. I think the pull of it is
look. So
really
all
strong
I'm
for
saying
those
is
who
that
have moved to 4K again.
if the Switch revision were to come out this holiday, and it's not, but hypothetically, if it were, it would be $400. I don't see it being only $50 more expensive. But if by next year, if by the fiscal year when the Switch revision comes out, Nintendo sees a little bit of a dip in sales and they see a situation where like, oh, we need to sort of do a price drop, then I could see that happening. Like maybe they could do a like I
but
could see.
Who buys? All right, hold on. My problem with it is that nobody wants. I don't think very many people will buy a $400 Switch. I don't think it will sell. I think people will buy a $350 Switch, and lowering the price of the Switch by $250 will also boost those sales.
Right.
So not only is Nintendo selling a lot, even more ridiculous amount of Switch units, they're also getting way more people to pay for $350 for a Switch than they would to get anybody to pay $400. Like imagine okay, say if they do it for $400, that's $50 more. Okay, they're selling $50 more each Switch, but only 5% of the user base upgrades or gets it. But they do one for $350, and 25% of them upgrade because it's actually a reasonable price.
Assuming that
they're getting way more money in the end for that. Way more.
I'm not saying I disagree with what you're saying. I'm just simply, I just wonder when Nintendo. Let me explain. Nintendo will not price cut the base Switch or the Switch Lite until the sales start to trend downwards. Like
I don't think that's. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think that's true. I think it makes more sense. Well, I just explained. I think it makes more sense for them to release a new system. Like if you're gonna release a new system, I don't think you want to release it when the sales are dipping. I think you want to release it while you have momentum.
Okay,
because
so
then you're gonna get people to you. You don't want to release a system hoping to boost things back up because you want to release it when the Switch is in its.
I don't actually disagree with that either. But I think they can anticipate when sales would start to dip.
Right.
So they could be
I think
they could be proactive.
Which is why I think
that.
it might be soon because the next gen is coming.
Sure.
And so this might be the time where you have more competition. So
I just don't think
this is why it makes sense
drop
to me.
This holiday.
No, not this holiday. I'm saying
but maybe
when
by
a Switch Plus comes out.
Okay.
When the Switch Plus comes out, that's when they'll drop it. I don't think they'll drop it before then. Doesn't make any sense. But the reason I think they'll drop it is, as I said, I think people will buy a $300 or $350 Switch Plus, and also the $250 Switch Normal would skyrocket. So you're getting way more sales.
And you also do a $149.99 Switch Lite.
Or $180. I think they can get away with $180. More like $179.99. I feel like that was a pretty standard price for like 3DS and new 3DS and stuff. So I think they might be able to drop it to that. Because I feel like they could go for that same price bracket.
Maybe
Bundle in the game, like Mario Kart or something.
Maybe.
That's what they did with the 3DS. Because it was $300. It was $200 when it first came out, and they dropped it to $180 and bundled Mario Kart in.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I mean, I guess I just kind of like the clean $100 gaps. But
I like it too. I just feel like they could get away with that if they wanted to.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe you're right. But when it's only a $70 difference to lose the TV feature, that's not that much of a difference. So that's why I'm a little skeptical of it.
I think it's still there's still a heavy appeal to like people who only really care about it being handheld though, because I feel like that's a pretty large audience.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't care that it can be docked. They're not gonna play it that way. Or like if Nintendo released a more powerful home console on the Switch, like I'd buy that because I don't play handheld. handheld. I don't think that'd be very smart because I don't think the audience is as big, but I think there is an audience there.
But
I think that audience will still
agree with
buy
you
the light.
that I think there's a decent chance that we could see price drops next year for a lot of different reasons. With, like you said, like with the Series S, that next generation system, while it is like the lesser version of the next generation systems, still it's a next generation 4K heavy capable system.
It does. I will say it runs Dirt 5 at 120 FPS. So it's like it does 120 FPS game. Like it is a next gen system. It runs some games at 4K, some games at 1440p, but it can, like, it has those next gen features. It has ray tracing. Like it's not a weak. It's just like, okay, you wanted to play your Xbox One games at 4K, you buy the Xbox Series X. You want to play them at 1080p or 1440p, you buy your Series S. Nothing else is different. Just like buying a lower tier on the graphics card list if you guys are PC gamers.
Yeah. But I think I'm inclined to agree that we could see a price drop by that point because of the systems, but also next year is a lot of Switch games coming out. A lot of Switch games. So next year could be the peak year for the Switch in terms of sales. So what if we have a situation where you have that new Switch Plus premium Switch, maybe it's $349.99 as you're suggesting, Brandon, which might be the right spot with the next generation systems and such, so it still is appealing for those who want that premium version of a Switch. But then you have the base Switch, which is at $249.99, which is very appealing because it's now cheaper than next generation systems, and you get that hybrid console still. And then the Switch Lite gets another little dip as well. So I don't know. I personally don't think it'll just get a $20 price drop. I think it'll be a little bit more than that. But you know, it gets a little bit of a price drop as well. And for those people who haven't really bought a Switch yet, because $200 is still too expensive, and now getting to that lower range where more people buy into it. And if next year you have a whole bunch of big games coming out, like a lot of big third-party stuff like Monster Hunter Rise. So if you have a, let's say, $150, $170 Switch Lite and Monster Hunter Rise, huge game, especially in Japan, a lot of mobile gamers for Monster Hunter, like that's a huge thing that could happen right there. And then there's the other huge third-party game we're getting, Shin Megami Tensei 5, and there may be others. But of course, obviously, have Breath of the Wild 2. It's the 25th anniversary for Pokemon, so there's probably some sort of Pokemon remake. So that will work out really well. And then there's new Pokemon Snap. Maybe we haven't gotten anything from the Mario team in years. The big main 3D Mario 2 team since Odyssey. So we may see the next big Mario game. I don't know if it comes out next year because they're getting 3D World. But you guys see the situation. There's a lot of big stuff coming out next year with price drops. It could be the right time for Nintendo to do this because while it doesn't seem like they're going really strong right now, and you might have thought that would have made sense to compete with the next generation systems, but next generation systems aren't going to have that much stock available. Like, so they're not going to really be able to make a big splash for the holidays. It's really just to get started. It's next year which will really shape how much market share the next generation systems will have. So if Nintendo has three different revisions, 3 different versions of the Switch, all appealing to different audiences, and they're priced competitively, as you're suggesting, Brand, that there'll be a need for a price drop because of those next generation systems. And 2021 is one of, if not the best year to the software for the Switch, with things like Breath of the Wild 2 and Monster Hunter Rise and new Pokemon Snap. Nintendo's gonna do really well next year. They, like you suggested earlier, Brandon, next year could be the year that they surpass 100 million and they blow past the Wii, and the Switch is cemented as the best-selling home console of all time for Nintendo.
The final thing I want to say about why I think $350 is a good price point is because I think $400 I feel like you're gonna get a Xbox Series or not Xbox Series, sorry, Xbox One X situation where it sold a few million, but compared to the install base of like the original Xbox One or like the PS4 Pro, it sold pretty well. I think it's like between 5 and 10 million or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. I need to look that up, but it is definitely not even close to what the original PS4 is selling. But something like the new 3DS, that sold a lot closer. That sold a lot more. Like that line was a lot more successful because that wasn't like ridiculously more expensive. It was basically the same price as when the 3DS launched. It was actually cheaper. It was the reduced price. Because there's $200, I think.
Well, they had to
for the new 3DS XL.
They had to slash the 3DS price because that didn't work.
It was an improvement, but it wasn't. It was barely more expensive.
I think it came out at $250. I could be wrong, but
I think it came out $200. I think it was a more reasonable price. I think the 3DS came out at what, like $300?
I'm talking about the 3DS. I'm talking about the original.
Oh yeah, it was like $250, $300. Yeah. It was ridiculous.
I'm trying to Google it, but I don't know how to type.
But my point is, like, if they released $350 Switch Plus, I think it could get like 20 to 30% of the total Switch like sales over the lifetime of the Switch.
The 3DS did launch at $249.99, by the way.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, they had to do a price slash and have the ambassador program because it was
so bad.
It was not performing well. Yeah,
it was way too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the Switch Plus at $350 with the Switch at $250, I think you could get to at the end of the Switch's lifetime, have it to where the newer Switch, the Switch Plus, is actually like 20 to 30% of the total Switch sales, which I don't think you'd even have a chance of doing that at $400. It might be like 5 to 10% at $400.
Okay. Yeah, I just hope that this Switch is it seems like it's worth it, you know? Like it's got to
feel like a bargain. Because there's other options. There's other options that offer better things. So if you want that portable experience and it's not absolutely worth it, because like think about it. If you're somebody who's a gamer who's not only interested in Nintendo, you're looking at this system, you're like, okay, I can get a $300 Switch and still maybe also get a $300 Xbox Series X or S or buy a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. And that is affordable. But if I spend another $100 just to buy a better version of the Switch and maybe not be able to afford the Xbox Series S, like I'm not going to do that. It has to be worth it. It has to be like a significant upgrade, or if it's $350, they'll be like, oh, it's like not that much more. It's not that expensive. Like it's worth it for them to get the better version because I mean, let's face it, the Switch doesn't look that great. Like if it's $350 and it's a 1440p capable like third-party games like Doom run closer to like 900p, like it's a decent like home console machine because Switch right now it's a good portable machine, but it's not really a good home console. Like it does its job, but it's not like a showcase for home console technology. But if they make like a pro version, it's $50 more and it's a much more of a showcase. Then that I think that would appeal to people. Like even current Switch owners might like upgrade.
Yeah.
Whereas like $400, I don't think a lot of people would upgrade.
So Taker610 provided another super chat. Thank you very much. Taker610 asked, Light $199, Hybrid $249, Home Only Pro $299. Yeah. So I guess my thing is that if you have a Lite at $200 and the base Switch is $250, for just $50, you're foregoing the ability to dock forever. I just feel like that's not enough. Yeah. That would kind of ruin Switch Lite sales, I think.
So I don't think they need to do a Home Only Pro. Like, I want that because I want them to go all in, but I don't think they would. But they don't need to. Like, I understand that, like, I want a home console only version of the Switch, but most people don't want like that. That's not what's going to sell. But you can still get a major graphical improvement just by doing a Plus or like a second Switch. Because the technology in the Switch is so old, guys. It's 2015 tech. Like, we haven't seen what NVIDIA has up their sleeves for gaming technology in 5 years. Like, there's a huge like jump that they could make. I don't think the Plus will be like a massive jump. I think it'll be something in between.
Yeah,
but, like,
I think
the
that
next
really
generation
big
of
jump
Switch
will be the next generation one a couple years from now.
The next generation of Switch, that's gonna be a huge jump. Like, that might be like 1.5 generation like leap.
Yeah. But we'll see how the pricing works. But I do think it makes sense to think that there could be a price drop imminent next year, potentially with the revision coming out. We will see though. But I want to talk about one more other thing before we close things out. Now there was, and I don't have the article on me, it's just something sort of popped up in my head. Phil Spencer, who's from Microsoft, was in an interview, and he was asked about more Switch games coming, and he said something along the lines of it not being a sustainable business model, basically. And maybe he didn't use the term business model, but he said it doesn't seem sustainable, and that he feels like the future for Xbox is in Game Pass and getting that to other places. And I interpreted that as maybe suggesting that, if anything, instead of maybe getting more ports for Switch, that they get like a streaming on Switch with Game Pass and xCloud. If they do that instead, that would be insane. Now, the tricky part to that is that I don't know if Nintendo would necessarily be okay with that, because that would mean that people would have to sign up for a subscription service on the Switch that is separate from Nintendo. I think it would actually add a lot of value to the Switch. Like, if you get legit Game Pass on Switch, that's insane. Like,
I feel like it's the same thing as like having Netflix on the Switch. Like, that's a huge amount of time and money people are putting into something that's not you. Like, it's not Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with Nintendo.
Well, I mean, Netflix is watching
game
stuff,
streaming
though.
Service is the same.
Like, I understand
True,
they can work
like,
out that way. Like, they could just sign into their Game Pass account, especially if they already have it. Like, you just download the app on your Switch and you already have it. It's like you have to pay extra for it if you're already paying for Game Pass. Like, I think it would.
If you have Ultimate.
I think it would be great for us fans if that were to happen, because then you don't have to buy an Xbox, right? If you don't have one, but you're still giving Microsoft money, and it'll keep more people playing the Switch. So maybe Nintendo would see the value in that, and they'd be like, "Yeah, let's let them do that."
I think it actually would be a good deal. I think it'd actually be a really good deal for both of them. You know what? Something I don't understand.
I would definitely. I would buy Game
doesn't
Pass if it came on
allow
Switch. I'll say
xCloud. Like, Apple won't allow xCloud on their platform. You can only get it if you have Android. So that's. I mean, we're already seeing some restrictions in place, but Apple's also Apple. So
yeah, but
I feel
Nintendo's
like
also
Nintendo
Nintendo.
could. Yeah, but the Nintendo and Microsoft are working together a lot. And
Yeah.
I feel like this would benefit Nintendo a lot.
Yeah, maybe all these little Microsoft things are leading up to something bigger, and I hope that bigger thing is a Game Pass. It would be great. I just hope that Nintendo and Microsoft both see that there's value on both ends, and if that's the case, then we win. Like, I'll say this: if there's a Game Pass on Switch, I will never buy an Xbox, but I will buy Game Pass.
Yeah. But I think most games would have to be streamed to the Switch, because otherwise you'd have to make ports of every single game on Game Pass.
Yeah,
I mean, not every game is going to be on the Switch Game Pass that's on other Game Passes.
Right, and maybe that's something that would only be available on the Switch revision, or
I think that's what I'm
thinking. With a Switch revision.
I think that they would wait until either a revision or just a next generation Switch, because the Wi-Fi on the Switch and just internet in general is so bad that for like a streaming service, I feel like you'd want better stuff. Because if you're constantly like a lot of lag, or like it looks really compressed and like crappy, especially like when you're playing in handheld mode, like the Wi-Fi is just not good. So maybe they'd want to wait for another Switch that has a better Wi-Fi card,
or maybe
a dock that actually is Ethernet built in.
Yeah, I would love it if they have a situation where, I mean, I brought it up earlier, like it's not just a Switch revision Lite and base Switch, but also a dock that maybe allows your Switch Lite to also cast to television, not cast, but run on the television, but it also offers an Ethernet port, things like that. I would like to see that, because that would give us better internet options, and maybe at that point, having Game Pass makes even more sense.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense once they have better internet capabilities on a Switch, because, yeah, I mean, I want Game Pass, but like streaming, I think it'd be xCloud. I think it would be branded as xCloud on Switch, not Game Pass.
Sure.
Because Game Pass is xCloud is their streaming service. So
Sure.
xCloud on Switch, I think, is kind of, people keep saying Game Pass on Switch, but that doesn't make sense because most of the games, like 90% of the games on Game Pass, don't have a Switch version. They wouldn't run on Switch. There's no way that would work. It would have to be xCloud for Switch.
Yeah.
So what we're really asking for is xCloud Switch. Like, people need to realize that, because a lot of people are like, oh, we hate streaming services, but they want Game Pass on Switch. It's like, you got to realize you're not going to get Game Pass on Switch. You're going to get xCloud on Switch. You're going to get a streaming service. That's what you guys are pretty much. That's what's going to happen. That's the only thing that can happen, because these games don't have Switch versions. They don't run on Switch currently.
I guess the only issue with that is that by only being able to stream, you can't take it portably. That's kind of the issue.
Unless you had internet connection. That's what I'm saying. Like, you need better internet options for Switch.
That's the unfortunate
I don't
thing.
necessarily think they need to add like 5G or something. I think internet companies are offering so much more like infinite data, unlimited data plans now that you can just hotspot from your phone and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. Yeah, I mean,
but when the Wi-Fi receiver and the
hotspot.
Switch can't actually keep up, then you're kind of screwed. Which is why I think like typically if you want to get like high quality stream, you're gonna want like 50 to 100 megabits per second. I have 600 down here at my house. I've never seen the Switch get above like 40, and that's like, it's really good.
No,
it's
it's
40.
not possible.
Yeah, it's way lower.
Doesn't-
It's usually like
doesn't do
20.
No, it
Like,
doesn't
you
do
need it to be like 50 to 100, and the Switch just doesn't. Even with Ethernet, it just doesn't do it.
that.
So yeah, I think xCloud and Switch might be a thing next generation of Switch, or Switch revision if it has better internet capabilities. Because why would you want that on this current Switch? Like, I don't want to be streaming games on my current Switch. The internet's terrible.
I'll say that one cool thing, like one option that they have for like a next generation Switch, so like a few years from now, is to have like some sort of data plan option. They tried that with the Vita and PlayStation, but it would make so much sense for the Switch because that it's a big draw. And maybe if there is like an xCloud sort of situation, it could be like a precursor to that,
Right.
because
and
there would
the
then be more of
Vita
a need
came
to have
out.
a constant internet connection.
I think the Vita had like 3G. Like, it came out
Which
before unlimited was a
trash.
thing. Like, now that unlimited plans are a thing, it'd be interesting if Nintendo actually worked with companies to add like a specific plan that was like only like $5 more a month, or like and you got internet on your Switch as well. Like, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. Is it something that Nintendo would do?
Internet's just so
That's-
much cheaper now that
it's
I
hard
think
to say.
it is possible now. Like, the Vita, like back in the day, like, it didn't really work. It's like if you wanted to sell like text messaging on the DS, but before unlimited texting was a thing. Like, nobody would do that.
Yeah.
Because they don't have unlimited text. They already have to keep it for their phone. But with unlimited, you don't care. It's not like there's a certain amount and you're like, I gotta have a certain amount for my phone and then a certain amount for my Switch. It's like, no, it's just both are unlimited.
Yeah.
Everything's just unlimited now. Like, you don't worry about unlimited text and call. Nobody thinks about that anymore.
Some people do.
Some people,
Yeah.
but it's very rare.
Yeah.
Like, most people don't have to worry about that.
We are slowly transitioning. With 5G becoming more and more readily available, more widespread unlimited plans. I mean, you're absolutely right. That is a direction we're moving in, where data is more easily had and it's more widespread. So maybe 2 to 3 years from now, the idea of Nintendo having a next generation system where one of the big new features is that constantly connected online component, by simply having a SIM card slot, that there's something there that I think is valuable. I think that makes sense. The problem is that Nintendo, historically speaking, isn't good with online things.
No.
But maybe,
I would love it
they'd
if
be
they
willing
worked with
to
Microsoft on
do
that.
something with that. Yeah, maybe.
I would love it if maybe Microsoft's like, hey, we gotta get xCloud and everything. We can't get xCloud and Apple, we gotta get xCloud and Nintendo. We're gonna help them with their internet so
Yeah.
it's not trash anymore.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna get xCloud there. That's the trade. Microsoft helps Nintendo, makes their internet not garbage, and in turn, Nintendo lets xCloud on the platform.
And I'll say that with the Phil Spencer thing, like if it ends up the case that there is some sort of plan to get a streaming platform from Microsoft on Switch, or on Nintendo, I should say, it makes sense for it to not happen soon, but a couple years from now. Because you don't talk, like, Phil Spencer has talked about things in the past, and he seems pretty candid, and like he talks about things that make sense, but it doesn't mean he's talking about something that's like imminent, like right around the corner, But you go if you go.
He's been talking about these partner acquisitions for years now.
Yeah,
just now seeing games from them.
Right, so it's almost like he's hinting at things that they're talking about, but it's not like right around the corner. But
he's
maybe
very
3
much
years
like
from
a
now.
long-term, like the big picture kind of person.
Right. So he could be alluding to the idea that maybe there is some sort of xCloud or something available on the next generation of Switch, and maybe that also does have some sort of data plan. That'd be neat, but again, like, we'll see when it actually happens. So we're pretty much at the end of the podcast. I just want to sort of look through the chat real quick before we call it a night here. Birdman added me. So the Pro would have DLSS, a new processor, or keep the Tegra X1 in a OLED 1080p screen? I don't know.
I don't think it'd be an OLED screen. I think it's just too expensive. No point. I think they could have a 1080p screen though. I doubt that they would keep the same Tegra X1. Just because DLSS by itself, you do need extra processing power in order to have that, like...
It's gonna be the Tegra X17.
X17.
That's right.
No, obviously they could do something that's based off of the Tegra X1 Plus, which is based off the Tegra X2 that they have in the Switch Lite and the Switch battery revision. But I think that they would need something with a little more graphical oomph. So maybe they add more cores to that, because they can use the same architecture, just add on to it, just add more CUDA cores to the GPU, add more cores to CPU, add more RAM, or switch out the RAM to be faster RAM. It is, like, on an architectural level, that chipset does support it. So they can do that if they want. We just don't know. So I would hope, though, that they would maybe double the CUDA core count on the GPU, offer faster RAM, more CPU cores, and 1080p screen would be nice. But not an OLED, that's just needlessly expensive.
Nintendo Josh
even my iPhone 11 doesn't have an OLED screen. Only the 11 Pro has OLED, so that's just to keep in mind. My phone was like over $1,000.
Yeah, let me read this thing from Nintendo Josh. I want the new Switch to maybe have a bit more powerful Switch, but a significantly improved dock experience. Maybe as powerful as maybe an Xbox One S docked. Oh, Xbox One, not a
Xbox One X. What he's saying is be as powerful
as
when
Xbox
the Switch
One
is docked as an Xbox One S. He just worded it strange.
Yeah, well, that seems pretty feasible.
Yeah.
Because we're not talking about Xbox Series X. We're talking or even Xbox Series S. We're not even talking about Xbox One X. We're talking about Xbox One S. So of those four, that's the weakest of those four.
I think it could be close to that, and then use DLSS to bring that up, because obviously a lot of Xbox One stuff is like 720p or 900p. Whereas I think a Switch Plus needs to target, like, I think maybe not needs, but I think, well, I don't know. Actually, honestly, the thing is, like, people don't typically buy the more expensive version, so it does need to be compelling. So yeah, maybe it does need to be a 1440p targeting machine to sell, because
if it has DLSS, that's possible.
Yeah, DLSS makes it, like, Nvidia has technology to make it possible.
Man, I'm if they really do have something like that on this Switch, that's gonna be nuts. This would be really cool to see.
Nvidia has better tech than AMD does.
Ronnie Fazio, an exclusive Castlevania game for Switch would be awesome, but Konami, you're 100% right. Some of my favorite 2D games are the Castlevania games, especially the ones on DS. I loved them to death. I would like to see something like that on Switch. There is that, what's it called? It's not Castlevania, but it's like a spiritual successor to it. It was like an indie effort. because they separated from Konami.
Bloodstained.
Yep, that's it. So there's that.
It's on Game Pass.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's on Xbox or not.
Drew Chicotelli, I hope I said your last name right there. I would like more original third parties and indies. They can port them to other consoles, but make them for Switch. Think games like Zack and Wiki.
I mean, Square's been doing that
cool
with
game.
like Octopath Traveler. They released on the Switch and then they ported it to other things. I feel like there's other games Square's done that with, but I can't remember which ones.
Yeah. I do feel like we're gonna see a few more third-party exclusives. Actually, I know it seems like it's gonna get delayed into it, but Bravely Default 2. Well, granted, that's
I can't wait for the
Nintendo.
eventual Astral Chain 2.
That'd be awesome. But those are all Nintendo published things. But in terms of non-Nintendo published third-party games, you have Shin Megami Tensei 5, you have Monster Hunter Rise, you have No More Heroes 3, all for 2021. There's also the HD remaster of the Shin Megami Tensei 3. And there may be more in the works. And no, these aren't exclusives, but there's the Balan Wonderland or something. And then there's also Phoenix Rising, which is coming out for Switch this year as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, there is some
Immortals,
relatively large third-party efforts that are coming to Switch, and they're all on the horizon, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a number of others that will be announced in 2021. So I think your hopes may be answered, actually, Drew. I think there's going to be some more cool third-party games around the corner. Monster Hunter Rise is a ground-up, big Switch game. So is Shin Megami Tensei 5. No More Heroes 3, we don't know how big that is, but that's another one along those lines. There could be some others. So I would hold out hope. I think you won't be entirely disappointed, at least. I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for, but there's stuff coming, I'm pretty sure. Midnight Naomi provided a super chat. Thank you very much. Midnight Naomi said, love the channel, always appreciate discussions, keep it up. I will do my best. Thank you very much. That means a lot. I appreciate it. JM0235. Andres, were you able to see the adventure mode in Hyrule Warriors yet? I know you weren't sure what that was last time I brought it up. I did see a little bit of it, actually. I would like to see something like that in Age of Calamity, especially considering the map that they have in Age of Calamity, how it's like the Breath of the Wild map. If they were to do something to play with that a little bit, and how you can sort of move around, that would be fun. I would like to see that, yeah. I've played a little bit of Hyrule Warriors since I haven't had that much time to play through it, because I'm playing different things. Right now I'm actually playing through Undertale. I beat it once, but there's reason to play through it multiple times because the story is entirely different when you do that.
Which ending did you get?
What?
Which ending did you get?
So I think I did the natural first ending where you just play it as a game and don't know what's going on.
So you didn't get the pacifist, or
no, I did.
In order to get pacifist, you cannot kill anything.
Right. So
and in order to get the other ending, the genocide one, you have to kill literally everything. So if you didn't do either one of those, then you got the normal.
Yeah, I did the neutral first time around, but now I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna be a pacifist, and I think after the
pacifist ending is the best ending in the game.
And then after pacifist, I'm gonna go for genocide.
I don't. I mean, it's hard to tell people exactly which order is the best, but in my opinion, yeah, that's kind of the best order to do the game in. Honestly, my favorite order to do the game is pacifist first, then neutral, then genocide. I
just feel like if no one tells you what's happening, your natural thing to do is neutral. That's what's gonna happen. 99% of people are gonna do the neutral ending if they're not told what's going on. And so I feel like the natural reaction after that is to either A, be really spiteful and go all in terms of making yourself stronger and killing everything, or be like, oh, I feel so bad after all the pain I caused, I'm gonna be as nice as I possibly can.
Genocide means so much more if you've done the pacifist route, because you've spent all that time making sure absolutely nobody dies, and it's actually really, 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 really hard. It's way harder than just the neutral route, because there's boss fights where you have to purposely stay alive as long as possible, where you can't kill them to win. You just have to stay alive, and you can't upgrade. You don't get more health because you're not leveling up, because you get literally 0 experience the entire time. So
that does sound
it also has the hardest boss fight in the entire game, which you also can't win that either. So it's way harder, but it has the best story, and the genocide means so much when you've done all that work to protect these characters who you now thoroughly love with your entire being, and then you just murder them all, every single one of them.
Yeah, it's must be tough.
It means so much more, so much harder. It's like, oh god, no, my friends.
It's fun, man. It's fun, but my point is that there's just a lot of games to play right now. I want 100% all 3D All-Stars. Pikmin 3 Deluxe is coming out this weekend. I still haven't finished Xenoblade Definitive Edition.
I'm almost 70 stars into Mario Galaxy.
Just got a lot going on. And I do want to get Ghost of Tsushima. Like, I just have too much to play right now. Too much.
Mario Galaxy is so freaking quick, I tell you what. It took me probably like 7 hours to get 60 stars, but you can then just beat the game. Like, you can beat that game in like 5 hours, and you don't even have to be trying to speedrun it. You're just like playing naturally.
You can actually get 242 stars in Mario Galaxy, though. So.
Oh my gosh.
So you say that it's easy to get to the end, but it's not the real.
Right,
end.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's really quick to get to the ending if you want.
Yeah. The base ending.
The main story of the game is.
I mean, I guess it's kind of like Undertale, really, in the sense that first playthrough isn't really. That's not really. There's like at least 3 playthroughs you should do of Undertale. You could argue more, right?
Yeah.
So, the game is actually longer than the 6 hours that it takes to beat the campaign. But let me check in the chat here before we call it a night. Birdman, Nintendo had a job listing for HDR support for a hardware, so Switch Pro HDR support or just a Switch 2 support. I don't know. There's definitely something that they could be looking into, but it doesn't mean it'll happen immediately.
HDR is a technology that's catching on a lot more, but I don't think it's something that they put in the Switch Plus. Just because even now it's like kind of an new-ish expensive technology. It's not widely adopted.
I think by the next generation Switch, that is something that
I think they could have it as an option for like while docked. Like, I don't think there'll be an HDR screen on the Switch itself, but I mean, even the Xbox One S, the big thing was that it had HDR support, even though it was basically the same internals as the original.
I mean, if it's going to be a
Xbox
4K
One.
capable system, high dynamic range makes sense, right? So it could be in the works. Could be.
It is something that works very well for like the style of game Nintendo makes. Like, very colorful, vivid, high contrast types of games. So.
Yeah. Nintendo Josh, I won't be getting a next gen Sony or Microsoft console, but I'm waiting for this new Switch and I hope it will be good. Yeah, I think, I mean, it's gonna be good, but it's not a next generation system. We don't even know how much more powerful it will be. It could just be a marginal upgrade. So I'll just, I'll point that out to you. We don't know what it is specifically. We speculate that it'll be more powerful. There are reports from Bloomberg and such that are suggesting that.
That's why I'm hoping
Nintendo
for
announces
DLSS, because
take that with a grain of salt.
I don't think it'll actually be that much more powerful. I'm kind of like banking on DLSS to come in and like make the bigger difference.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that.
Yeah.
But that there are rumors that I think they're semi-credible, but not everything turns out to be true. So we shall see. I'm looking forward to more Age of Calamity news this week because it seems to come every week.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting closer and closer. We are less than a month away from that game. It comes out November 20th, I believe. So we're just weeks away. Next week I may have finished Crown Tundra, so we can talk a little bit more about that. I'm sure there's gonna be some things to talk about next week. Absolutely. So stay tuned, guys. I see there's another question from Ronnie Fazio, so I'll check with that and then we'll call it a night. So Ronnie Fazio added the both of us, Brandon. A little off topic, but what would be both of your reactions if Agumon from Digimon got into Smash Ultimate? Digimon versus Pokemon.
I'd be confused. Like, why? Isn't
Just
that
be-
not originally a video game though? So it wouldn't count.
I think
Couldn't get
it
it.
sort of was kind
Was
of.
it a video game originally? I don't know. I
It was a
honestly don't
game.
know.
Yeah, I think it was like one of those like pocket things.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't
That
like
is
on
possible.
a console, but it was.
As long as it was like a video game of some sort.
Yeah, I believe it was.
I mean, like, look at Game and Watch. So yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just don't care or really know anything about. Like, I don't know who Agumon is. Is it the red like dragon like type thing that I was?
Agumon is like an orange. It looks kind of like a different version of Charmander, but when it digivolves, it becomes this big like has like blue stripes and has like a skull on its head. It's kind of like a T-Rex. It looks pretty cool. And then it has other digi evolutions.
Oh, I
but-
see. It looks like almost like a raptor when it's evolved.
It's cool. I think it's possible. I'm not like expecting that though. I wouldn't place that like high up on the expectations.
Tell
But
you
it
what,
would
I
be
wouldn't
fun.
be excited, but I'd be interested.
Yeah. I think there are other characters that are more likely, but definitely it's not impossible.
Yeah, I would be wholly shocked and just baffled, confused. Why?
Yeah. Actually, you know, Birdman brings up an interesting point. Birdman added me. So I'm guessing there's going to be a partner showcase direct this week because we haven't gotten one yet for this month. It doesn't have to
might
happen
be.
every month, but you know, I do think
It has been happening every month since July.
it's maybe, you know, I think there's a decent
we
chance that
also
could
have-
happen.
There's been a whole deluge of information lately, so maybe not. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Ronnie Father said, just fun speculation, he is a Bandai Namco character. And you know, that is an interesting point, having a Bandai Namco character in Smash Brothers if it's a Digimon thing. Like that, yeah, that'd be nice. It would be nice is what I was trying to say. But, you know, that's pretty much it for the podcast. We shall see what happens. Maybe there's a partner showcase this week. I don't know. We shall see. But, yeah, that's all for now. Guys, make sure to check out Brandon's channel. It is linked in the description below. Leave a like on the video. And, yeah, that's it. Take care.
Bye, guys.